On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring farmhouse-style homes that combine history, charm, and unique design. First, we'll tour a Richmond, Virginia home where vintage wallpaper and whimsical decor create a mix of old and new. Next, we'll visit a 600-year-old English countryside home, beautifully restored to preserve its timeless elegance and rich history. Then, we'll explore a 1740 farmhouse in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where original character and art collections make it a family dream home. Afterward, we'll head to Surrey, England, to see a 16th century red brick farmhouse, where antique treasures blend with modern comforts. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Valerie Darden. Welcome to my home in Richmond, Virginia. Come on in. In April of 2022, my husband, my two sons, and I moved into this new build home. The outside looks like a modern farmhouse style. However, on the inside, I wanted to make the home have a historical vibe to it. We did that by adding lots of historical style wallpaper. So for example, this wallpaper is one of my all-time favorites. It is by Schumacher and it is called Hydrangea Drape. I fell in love with it several years ago because I saw it in the movie Gone with the Wind and I knew I had to have it somewhere in my house, and I figured, why not in my entry? This is the first time I have ever had a grand style entry. In my previous homes, I had a very, very teeny tiny entryway, and I figured, let's go all out for this space. A lot of what Brexton Cole Interiors is known for is mixing modern elements with vintage style elements. So for example, I knew we needed a place to hang our coats and hats, and we found this. This is about 50 or 60 years old on Cherish. We added some modern touches. That is called the mill pendant, and that is from Visual Comfort. Over here is this round, it's just very traditional, round, modern table. This I got from CB2 a couple of years ago. I added this fun abstract, again, just to shake the place up a little bit and make it not feel so much like your grandmother's home. Underneath, I had these stools done by Butler Designs. I think I got them in about 2019. Again, just to mix up the space with modern and old elements. Over here, this console table I found on Facebook Marketplace for a steal. I think it was only $50. I cleaned it up. When I got it, it was full of dust, but we cleaned it up and we decided to use it right here. It fit the space perfectly. This is just a spot where we can throw our keys, throw our wallets when we come home from the day. And we decided just to add some fun things that we cherish as a family, like photos of our two sons. This is them on their first day of school last year, and just some favorite coffee table style books. I love to decorate with books just because it gives the home that layered feel, warm feel. And of course, I like to flip through these books on my days off. So I feel like this entryway really gives a sneak peek into what the rest of the house looks like. You get eclectic, traditional, and modern. So one of my favorite things in this entryway are these two traditional style eye plates. Obviously the art is not traditional, but it just adds that element of eclectic into this home and just a sense of a touch of unexpected, if you will. Underneath, this is a vintage dog photo that I found at a local estate sale here in Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia is great because there's a lot of historical homes here that you can find little fun pieces like this. These plates were an Etsy purchase, and I got them about, I want to say 2 years ago as a gift, and I had no idea where to put them. So after I put up this wallpaper, I decided they would look hilarious and really nice there as well. When we have guests, we certainly have a lot of questions about the eyeball plates. They're kind of a running joke, but in a good way. So moving along, this door right here, we kept the original builder grade door. However, what we did was we went to M-Tech and we ordered the brass doorknob and just added a little tassel right here. And once again, this doorknob just changes the face of the entire door, because again, when you go in these historical homes, you see these beautiful details and elements that you don't see in the builder grade homes. So we changed this out, and you can see we've done that throughout the house. So right off of my entryway, which is one of the main things I loved about the home, is the dining room. You kind of just walk right into the space from the entryway. I knew I wanted my dining room to, again, have a historical feel. One of the first things that we changed in here was the walls. We added this molding. We just picked it up from Home Depot and glued it on here. It was very easy. The paint here, it's just a creamy, simple paint. It's called Schoolhouse White, I think, by Farrow and Ball. We next added this landscape wall mural from a company called Hovia. This was probably harder than I thought to add on, but it turned out beautifully, and I love the texture, and it just adds that historical feel like I've been raving about. So when we first moved into the home, this was just a big blank white box, and we knew that adding these types of details would just make the difference in this space. So over here, we like to entertain during the holidays. We ordered this table from Uttermost. It's just a simple gold table with fun details. I knew I had to have it when I saw it. And once again, my stacking of books, it's just a fun little detail in here. As I said, we entertain, so we sometimes keep alcohol and drink glasses here depending on the holiday. I'm a huge fan of Greek busts. You will see them all over my house. I try to keep fresh flowers all the time in my home. However, I have a tendency to kill flowers, so I'm lucky that they held up today for Homeworthy. Moving on to the dining table. This is actually my mother's. It was a dining table that she had since the 90s, and she moved houses and was ready to get rid of the table, but I told her that she was not allowed to throw this table out, and I took it, and so now it's mine. I think it was made in the 80s, but it's working in this space. These bamboo style chairs were a Facebook Marketplace find. I knew that I wanted the chairs to create the juxtaposition between the dark wood, and I knew that finding these chairs on Facebook Marketplace were the exact style that I was looking for. We ended up painting them white. When we first got them, they were a dark blue. Needless to say, they didn't work quite well in this space. So another thing we added, and another thing that I thrifted, of course, was these art pieces. This was my father's, this frame. And he had no art in here, so we found this cool print on Etsy. It's just a traditional style print, and it goes perfectly with this house in the state of Virginia because of the equestrian vibe. There's a lot of horse riding and equestrian style homes here. Over here, again, here's my obsession with Greek busts. So this one is a recent purchase from CB2. This is just a candle I found at Anthropology. I decided to add some modern art in here, which is another theme you'll see throughout my house. This was an Etsy print, and I got this frame from Target. This print, I forget where I found it. I want to say Home Goods several years ago, and I think it looks cool here. It just creates the height. The table here and this lamp is from a local company called Revival. They have the coolest vintage items. Again, I got these for like $10. There's another one in there that I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, this once again was just a vintage piece that I thought would look really neat in this otherwise newer space. The rug below was a scallop style jute rug. And I like the jute style in here just because it's easy to clean up. So we have two little boys, as I mentioned before, and we don't eat in here often, but when we do for holidays, it can be very messy. So we decided to purchase this rug for an easy cleanup, and also the scallop detail is very cool. On the table, I got this table setting. I found these and I decided to decorate for autumn a little bit because it is the end of August. These were a fun find from World Market. Same with the napkins and the napkin holders. So yeah, I decided to add some autumn touches as well that you will see throughout the house. So the best compliment somebody could give me about my home would definitely be that this home has lots of character. I don't feel like it's a new build home as I'm entering. That is the biggest compliment to me, just because I have loved historical character in homes from the time I was a child. I was never lucky enough to live in a historical home, but I can certainly try to recreate that. Just as you see the little details, they make the design. I grew up in New Jersey and I had no idea that I was going to be an interior designer. My goal as a teenager and young adult was to become a professional soccer player. I played soccer in college, and after an injury that did not work out. And for years I worked various different jobs. I worked as a server, a teacher, a social worker, a counselor, and then finally, back in 2014, I decided to follow in my mother's footsteps. She's an interior designer and has been up in the state of New Jersey for, 30 years. And one day she decided to ask me for some help on one of her projects, and she emailed me some photos, and I started to design some things for her, and it just kind of took off from there. I don't have a degree in interior design. She has her degree in interior design. So basically, she taught me everything she knew on a one-on-one basis. I started having individuals that were local ask me to come do their house, come design their house. They would ask questions, and it kind of just snowballed from there, where I ended up starting Brixton Cole Interiors down here in Virginia. And since then, we have done so many projects, not only in Virginia, but all over the East Coast. So it's been a really exciting time. That was another reason why I decided to write the book that will be coming out on October 29th, Beautiful Living. A lot of clients and Instagram followers would message me questions about design. So for example, what size rug do I buy in this space? How high do I hang my chandelier above my dining table? What paint color do you suggest for this space? It was questions like that. And I decided to put them all together, compile them, and make a book and answer all those questions. Any design question that you need to know will be in that book. So that was the start of that book. So that's kind of how design and interior design came into my life. We are now moving into the living room. This is the most used space of our house. As you can see, this is a big open space. This is where the home really opens up, because we're moving out from the entryway, and we knew we wanted a big open space in here for the entire family to enjoy. This home is a semi-custom home. So we had the builder, originally this wall was supposed to be straight. So we had the builder knock out this little space because I knew I needed to have detail here, whether that be a table or a mirror. I love to use large mirrors because one of the design tricks that I can tell you here is that they open up the space, they make a room look bigger, and they also bring in a lot of light. So I have this mirror, and follow me over here, the same one right here. Again, it looks great because they're right next to these huge doors that we added in. And the light just bounces off the two of these. In this space, right here, this whole wall, we had 3 very small builder grade windows. We did not like that. So we changed that and added these 2 black French doors from Pella. We added them about a year ago, and they've really been amazing in opening the space up. You'll see over here, we had another one that we added too, but we'll get to that in a minute. But these doors are great because not only do they bring in more light, but they completely made the space feel extra large. Eventually in this space, this is just our outside seating area, we plan to raise the roof and make this kind of a high ceiling space, but for now this is what it is. But that was one of our goals, to add these French doors first, just once again to give character. We added these wall sconces here, just a way of adding interest to the space and adding some historic charm as usual. More historic art. You will see this all over my home. This was an Etsy purchase of a print. These green sofas are probably one of my favorite purchases that I have ever made. They are the Margot sofa from One Kings Lane. And I knew I had to have them, with my favorite color being green. So these sofas they're probably one of the most asked about sofas on my social media. They come in several colors. They come in white, beige, tan, and I think a deep blue at this point, but I knew I had to have the green. And we got two just to face each other. So when guests come over, or even our family, we can have a fun conversational area. They're certainly long enough where everybody can sit on. We added this bench as well. This is another One Kings Lane purchase. They're one of my favorite stores to shop at, just to add more seating to the space and just to add that fun conversation area. I love the print because it's modern, mixed with these otherwise traditional, very, very traditional velvet green sofas. So I think that's a fun little mixture and also adds that layer of eclectic to the house. Our TV area, this is, like I said before, where we spend most of our time as a family. This is obviously an art TV, and I just chose a traditional style for art piece for here. This mantle did not come with the house. This is something that we purchased, I want to say, at a local yard sale around here in Richmond, Virginia. We painted it to match our walls, and we just added this silver screen just to give the space some dimension and layering. But otherwise, it's a very cozy space, and it's one of those spaces where I love to decorate and add seasonal touches. For example, fall's coming up, so I have my little glass pumpkin, my books. I have my fun decorative Chanel books that I love over here, and of course, my Greek bust candle. So this space was a blank wall, and I knew it needed some height to create some dimension within the home. So I ordered this black cabinet from Crate & Barrel, and it does a great job in showcasing some of our treasured things within the house. Like I said, I love to collect candles and books. We have some family photos in here. We have interesting things like this little spiked vase that I found at Jason Home. I had to get it. And it just kind of shows off some of our fun, eclectic style pieces, but also it does a great job with showcasing some of my favorite art as well. But yeah, this was a fun find just because the height was perfect. I loved the glass, and it does a great job with highlighting this wall a little bit, which otherwise is plain and boring. This little piece of art right here, I found at, HomeSense, because I knew being the wall was so long, I knew it needed something else. So I just found this at HomeSense when we first moved in and thought it wouldn't work. But when I put it here, I ended up really liking it because it gives texture and of course height as well. It's really important to add height in some homes just because sometimes the space will look blank. So that was one of my favorite finds. So right off of our living room is our kitchen. This is an open concept space, similar to many new builds. My sons will often eat here and go into our living room and drink orange juice or have chips, whatever they do after school. But we knew the kitchen needed to have stools that were easily wipeable just because 2 young children. So we found these at Target a couple years ago. They were a huge bargain and I absolutely love them. They've held up very well and are really easy to clean. I still love a white kitchen. Some people will say it's getting dated, but I'm a huge fan of the white, airy, bright kitchen. So I knew when we moved into this house, that was one of the things that we had to incorporate. Our cabinets here are actually called toffee. They're not a stark white, but they're a creamy white. So I don't know why it's called toffee, it just was, but we added these knobs that we also found at Home Depot because the original knobs that were here were just simple silver builder grade. So one of the first things we did was switch these out for something a little bit more fitting for the home. We just did a simple subway tile backsplash here, simple countertops. I think these are quartz. Being from New Jersey, I love to cook pasta, so I added this little pot filler here. It certainly helps with all those pasta dishes that I make. And over here, one of my favorite buys that we got for the new home was this refrigerator. I love a beautiful white refrigerator. The home came with just a silver builder grade fridge, and this was one of the upgrades that we chose to invest in just because she's a gem and we love her. As you can see, I'm incorporating fall elements. This is just a little nook here that I love because we can put our fruit here. We add cookbooks here. We love to cook as a family, so these are definitely in well use here. As you can see, this was my grandmother's and we have used it a ton. So moving into the butler's pantry, this is the room that sold my husband on this house, because it is not typical of a new build. We did have this added. This did not come with the original floor plan, but we knew that this space was important to us, not only for entertaining purposes, but just the overall appearance of the home. During holidays, like I mentioned before, we like to entertain, and we will keep all of our dishes here, like turkey, cranberry sauce, what have you, appetizers, drinks. It's just an extra area to store food so you're not cluttered in the kitchen. But what makes this space so special to us is the height of the ceiling in here. I added this Artza & Co. traditional style wallpaper about 6 months ago, because I went into an Airbnb in Arkansas and I noticed that they had wallpaper very similar to this on their ceiling in the butler's pantry, and I absolutely fell in love with the idea. So I decided to do the same in our house. I just chose a neutral style just because I didn't want it to be overwhelming and completely take over, but just give the space that textured look, lived-in look, and of course, traditional look. Over here are the cabinets that are crucial to us just because with the children, they will keep their snacks in here. We keep protein powders in here, sodas, drinks, macaroni and cheeses, pastas, crock pots, anything that we need are in these cabinets right here. We chose to just go with a natural wood here to bring warmth to the area. I didn't want everything to be so trendy and overly white, so I think the brown or darker wood is perfect for that. We added these sconces here just to add some balanced lighting in here so you're not overwhelmed with the light, but we added one here and one there. These sconces we got from lights.com. They were one of the first purchases we made when we moved into this home. The countertop is a black granite countertop that we sourced from a local stone company here in Richmond, Virginia. I knew I wanted to have a dark countertop in here, because it looks great with children's dirty handprints. It's easy to clean. And also granite is just super strong and it looks fantastic. So I'm very happy with this. To add height, I added this art piece that it was a purchase my husband and I made together the first year of our marriage. And we just decided that it would look really cool in here. The black tones would be matching the countertop, and also because we honeymooned in Versailles, France, and this is a French sign, we thought, hey, why not? It looks perfect in here. So moving over here, this is just my little corner. These are just my fake plants that hopefully this year, once fall draws closer, I will add some fresh fall foliage to this vase. This is just a vase that was my husband's mother's, so I thought it was a great size, so we just added that in here. This piece of art was a thrifted find I found up in New Jersey while visiting my family a few years back. I just thought that would be really cool to put in here just to add that touch of vintage. And I loved the frame, of course, because it's brass. So another thing that we love in here is this pretty hammered sink that we found on Etsy. I knew that I wanted the sink to be special in here just because I feel like this room is so special to this house. So I custom ordered this sink to fit precisely in here. And when the house is being built, this was just something that they were able to add in, which was super handy and great for us. So we use this in here to fill coffee, to fill our Keurig, coffee, tea, whatever. And it's just a space, another space for the kids to wash their hands because we have a lot of that in here. They like to play in dirt. My youngest likes bugs. These two pieces of art were from a local artist up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I thought they were just really fun because they give that primitive style. And of course, the frames are beautiful. I'm a huge lover of the vintage style gold frames, if you can tell. This is just something that we added later on as well. I got it at McGee & Co. and it's just a pot holder that I think adds so much character, and it gives a cottagey style feel that I just really like for this space. I didn't know what to do with this wall, so when I found that online on their website, I thought that that would be really great for here. It just, you know, holds towels, old pots, and just gives that sense of vintage. And this Butler's Pantry is just seated in the best way in our home because it gives us entry to the kitchen and the dining room. And it's, yeah, one of our all-time favorite rooms in this home. Like I said, it was what sold my husband on the house, and I have to say, it definitely sold me as well. So moving on, let's go to our breakfast nook. Follow me. So moving into our breakfast nook, this room is right off of our kitchen. It's where we eat the majority of our meals. Of course, being a new build, this was a very white space, white box. So we did a lot of changes in here. The first change we made, as I mentioned before, was to add these black French doors. Previously, they were just kind of the builder grade white push out doors, but we decided that this room needed a little extra character and interest. We added our wallpaper. This wallpaper I purchased from Anthropologie, and I knew that it was going to be awesome in this space because it ties the whole house together. It has the greens, the blacks, the colors, and the creamy tones that just look so fun in this space. I absolutely love it. One thing we did that I did not mention before, along with the doors, we added these 3 large windows, also from Pella. We added these because the space before just had 2 very small windows, and we decided that we needed to get more natural light in this house. So we added these huge windows, and what a difference it has made. Not only does it give the home dimension, but the natural light that we get from these large windows is just priceless. So we chose this dining table, not only because it fit the space perfectly, but because it's very easy to clean. My sons are very messy when they eat, and this table is just amazing. All I do is take a wet wipe and scrub any crumbs or muck right up. It's probably one of my favorite tables that I've ever had for that reason. And the chairs that are with this table we purchased from West Elm. They're just a very basic, easy to clean style chair. They go really well with the space just because of the black and the size. They are perfect for us. The chandelier that I chose to put above the table is a purchase from Valerie Designs that we've had for years. I just thought it looked fun and eclectic, and once again, perfect size to add to this little space, very whimsical. And moving over to this side, I knew that this wall needed something special. So I found this buffet table at a local thrift shop. A lot of my finds in my homes are from local thrift shops here in Virginia. This table was black when we first got it, and we ended up painting it this creamy white. So that looked perfectly against the wall with the creamy tones. Off to the side, just to add a touch of modern in here, I just added this little table. It doesn't do much, it just kind of hangs out there, but I thought it was just a fun little addition to this space, giving its whimsical style. When we were designing our breakfast nook, it was a wide open space, and we knew that this area needed to have a space of its own. We added these beams and stained them black. All we did with this was we went to Lowe's or Home Depot, purchased the lumber, measured and added these beams all around to give the breakfast nook a room or a feel of its own. My husband did this. He DIY'd the beams. He's very handy. And then the stain we chose is just a darker stain to kind of tie in with the wallpaper and also the table. To add to this little space also, we had these fun animal heads that we got, gosh, back in 2012 at Z Gallery. And I knew this wall needed a little something, so we added these, I think they're plaster animal heads, just for a fun and unexpected touch. They definitely, my son's friends definitely love the animal heads in here. So before I show you the primary bedroom, I wanted to show you this fun little moment that we have at the base of our stairs. This vintage table I got from a family friend, and it's super special to me because it was passed down from generation to generation. It's just a beautiful pink stone on top with this incredible table, Baroque style table underneath. I just thought it added the perfect mixture of old and new. We added this modern style vase here that I got at World Market with some dried florals for fall. And I just added some fun touches with books, a photograph of my father's mother, Gladys. I just thought this was such a, it's hard to see, but a beautiful photo of her profile. This is very special to me. So I decided to keep her here. Above it is this piece of art from Kelly Hopner. I love this print just because it's very different, very unexpected, and people definitely compliment it when they walk around the corner in this little nook. I recently found this vintage chair at a place called Luckett's here in Virginia. So this was just a nice little addition to add to this entire vignette. As for this accent wall, this was just a plain wall. So with new builds, it's very important, as I've been mentioning, to add some of that character that doesn't come with the newer builds. So this is just a simple grid wall that my husband and I DIY'd literally the first week we moved in here. Once again, we just kind of stuck with the white paint color, but just added this for texture and dimension. It's just a simple touch, but it does make all the difference in the world, especially if you're standing out in the living room and looking onto this wall. So moving into the primary bedroom, this is one of our favorite rooms in the house. I know I've been saying that a lot, but in this space we just decided to keep this wall very light and bright. It's painted White Dove by Benjamin Moore, and I love it because it's not overly bright, but it gives that sense of warmth. We have this mirror here. This is just a mirror we got back in 2020 from Anthropology. Lots of people, I'm sure you've seen, have this mirror, but I fell in love with it because it's just so ornate and it just brightens up the room so much with the light bouncing off of it. And it looks great against this wall. These Roman shades were made by Lynn Chalk. She does lots of my window treatments for not only myself, but clients. So she did these last year for me. I love them. They're a Schumacher print, and I just thought that this print was so delicate for this room. It brings out the creams and the whites and the blacks. Our bed was something that I knew I had to have. I found this headboard several years ago, and I loved the gold and the linen textures of it and the buttons. It's just, it had so much dimension in here, and it just warms things up perfectly. And the pillows in here are something that I love as well. This is one of my favorite prints of all time. It's modern, it's traditional, it's all of those things mixed together. So I knew with the fall season, I wanted to add in some brownish tan tones. So this is something that we've been sleeping with, and I love the texture these pillows bring to the room. I decided to go with a different lamp here so things wouldn't be overly matchy-matchy. I love when things in rooms look collected. So this is one of my favorite lamps. It's called the Morton lamp that I purchased back in 2020. This was in our old house as well. And I just love that it's a pop of silver, and it's unexpected, and it's not, like I said, matching the other lamps. So that's definitely a fun touch in here because the nightstands do match each other. Along this wall here, we added this fun olive tree just to give height and some texture in the room. It's not real. It's just something that I found a couple of years ago. And right here in this corner, we added a fun, totally vintage photo. That is about 80 years old, and I found that in an estate sale here in Virginia. It's our creepy art guy, we call him. We added these black wall sconces that we purchased at 1 Kings Lane. We have one on each side. And eventually we are going to add French doors in here as well and build out a little bit into the yard just to have the room be more romantic, if you will. Over here, this is my favorite reading nook area. I love to just sit here during the day when I'm not working or not making food for my kiddos. This chair is special to me. I just had it recovered in this fabric from Calico Corners, and I added the fringe detail just to give it some interest. It's such a cozy chair, and I added this antelope pillow that I found at a local shop here in Virginia. It's just it's one of my favorite corners in the room. I added the federal style mirror here to give the impression of historical vibe in this room. And another thing I wanted to mention was we added this wall molding when we moved into the house, probably a month after we moved in. The walls were blank, there was nothing here, so we added this, and we got the trim from Home Depot and just kind of nailed it in here, measured, and painted over it with the Benjamin Moore White Dove just to give the room some extra interest. This bump out, my husband and I built ourselves, mainly my husband because I am terrible with measuring, but he built this bump out. We painted it the color of the wall. We next added this mantle that was found on Facebook Marketplace that we got for like $50. We thought it looked great because it had the dental molding that we also added above the fireplace, just to give that, vintage home feel. So this is a non-working fireplace, but it's just one of those things that we wanted in here for character and detail, and it adds so much to the space. We found the stone or tile at a local company down here, and it just worked out really well. We were pretty nervous about adding that touch, but it ended up giving the room some really cool character, which we love. We added a little bench here just for some decor. This bench I also found at 1 Kings Lane, and it's just simple. I love it. Some of the art you'll see behind the door is traditional mixed with modern. I have my traditional dog prints. This looked like one of the dogs that my mom used to have. And this Greek bust, and whoever is doing that is holding the Greek bust nose, just adds a touch of humor, and I thought it was fun. And I love the frames. I'm a big fan of textured frames like this. So I thought, let's add a mini gallery wall here. This piece I'm obsessed with this piece. This was a local find. It's a French desk. It's an old writing desk, and it's not in perfect condition. I plan to fix it up, but it's just absolutely stunning. It's one of those things that adds so much warmth to this space because not only the wood, but just the brass touches. It is one of my favorite things in this house. So hopefully I am able to get it fixed up soon, and I want to add some candles here, but for now we're just gonna leave it. But it fit perfectly in this little nook between the wall and the bathroom. We made so many changes to this bathroom. I knew I wanted a Parisian style bathroom, and we made it happen. The first thing we changed in here was the flooring. The original floors were just very builder grade beige square tile, and immediately we switched that out and put this beautiful marble tile in that we found from the tile shop. And it has made all the difference in the world. It's very Parisian, very traditional. You will see this style in homes that date hundreds of years back, and I absolutely love it. The next change we made was obviously to add this wallpaper that I just fell in love with because it has the black and cream tones. It's Parisian, and it's just very classical. We next added this vintage chandelier that I found at the store Revival that I mentioned before. It's a true vintage chandelier. It has crystal, and it just makes the room pop. Before the chandelier, there was just a boob light, and we knew that needed to go. This original vanity was here. We did get the black color vanity when we moved in with the gold knobs. But what we did was we changed the countertop. So prior to this countertop, it was just a white builder grade kind of style. We got this, we had this stone custom cut. This is actually soapstone. And what we did was we just replaced the builder grade laminate with this beautiful stone. And I had them add this little height piece right here just to give the space some dimension and some interest. This has made all the difference, and it upgraded the bathroom so quickly after this was installed. We next added the faucet and knobs. These were found on Wayfair, and because they're historical looking, I knew I had to have them. They're absolutely beautiful. Of course, I added my little vintage art piece right here of a 17th or 18th century man. And the mirrors, we found them at Butler Designs, and I love them just because they're simple, but they open up the space an incredible amount, and they are a great addition to this room. They fit the space very well, so I'm very pleased with those. And speaking of dental molding, as we did in our primary bedroom, we continued that trend in here because, as usual, the bathroom was just a very blank space. So we added the dental molding all over the space just to draw the eye up and give it a beautiful appearance. So another thing that I did add in this bathroom, which I absolutely love, are these mini art pieces right here. They're called intaglios. I think that's how you say it. But they are from an artist that I found on Instagram, and they're just gorgeous. They match the color of this space, and they just give a little fun decorative touch to this space. The towel holder is from Anthropology, and I love Anthropology just because they have whimsical pieces that I feel like I love to sprinkle here and there in my home. So that is just a fun touch. Moving over here, this is the matching towel rack, the Anthropology towel rack that matches the towel rack over there. We added that here. This piece of art, I ripped this out of a book. I do that a lot, you'll notice. I ripped this out of a book and had it framed. It says YSL, and it has a vintage style phone. I thought that was just fun and unexpected in here. I added my Greek bust candle here and this mini table here just to bring the brass all around the room. So that was fun. I don't like to light the candle very much because I don't want to ruin the shape. But yeah, he adds a fun touch. In our shower, we didn't add much to the shower because we were able to have the shower designed how we wanted. The only thing we changed was the shower faucet and the knob. They were just silver basic. So we added these two cool shower heads from Delta and the knobs just to continue with the brass theme around this space. So that we're pretty happy with the shower, and we love the space. You'll notice we don't have a bathtub in here because my husband and I don't take baths. We are total shower people. I don't know why that is, but we just added the extra long shower for that reason. The word home for me means a place of sanctuary and relaxation and low stress for myself and my family. I want to create a space where we get to come home from a long day of school or at work and just be able to kick back, relax, eat lovely food, and enjoy each other's company. But it's time for you to go, Homeworthy, because right now I have to get back to my client work. It's been so much fun having you here, but you have to leave now. So see you later. Bye-bye.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Genevieve. Welcome to my home in the English countryside. I'm so happy you're here. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, my name is Genevieve Harris. Welcome to my 600-year-old house. You're sitting with me here in the lounge. We're nestled in the English countryside in the Kent East Sussex border. Well, I was originally from Canada, born and raised, and when I was 20, I decided I just wanted to change. I wanted to study fashion, and I ended up moving to London, where I lived for 10 years. I loved it there. I met my husband there, but when we were ready to have children, we just wanted somewhere a little bit where we could have more space, and we were looking to buy a house, and it was this sort of East Sussex countryside that we loved. It's near the coast. It's just a beautiful, beautiful part of England, and yeah, and we're still only about an hour away from London, so it's quite accessible for that. Do you know, it's really funny because I was actually away visiting my mum and dad in Canada, and I was looking for a house. We were ready to buy somewhere, and I saw this house come up. And the minute I saw it, I phoned my husband and said, "You need to go and see it." I knew, even without being here, I knew we had to have it. I just loved it. And my husband went and saw it, and he phoned me and he said, I think it's the right one. I flew home a week later, I saw it, and we put an offer in on the house, and it was instant love at first sight, absolutely. So we've been here 6 years. We were ready for a project. I love houses that need a bit of attention. This one was off the chart. It needed so much help. It was literally falling down. It had been in the same ownership for about 60 years. The lady that lived here was given it as a wedding present, so it had been in the family for quite a few generations. It was really neglected. There were parts of the timber frame that were rotted. We really had to strip it back and rebuild it, essentially. Rumor, folklore was that King Henry VIII stayed here, which I think is incredible. Of course, going back that far, there's not always sort of, exact details, but a lot of the neighbors had said that this is, one of the places that he had stayed, which just boggles my mind. I can't believe, it kind of reminds you how old this house is, so yeah. Welcome to our drawing room. This is the biggest room of the house. It's the room that you enter when you come through the front door. We believe that originally it was 2 rooms. So you can see by the pattern of the brick floor, there was probably a wall here. When we moved in, it was 1 big room, and we kind of use it as 2 separate spaces. I'll show you what we did. There's 2 fireplaces on either side of the room. This one we put in ourselves. So this log burner here, we put in ourselves. There was evidence that there used to be an old chimney here. So we put the log burner in. We added the antique Delft tiles, and my husband built the wooden surround here. So that's kind of the area where we sit of an evening. We've got a teeny tiny hidden TV, which I'm not going to show you. It's quite horrible. And we sit here, watch TV, cozy up by the fire, and this is our kind of family evening kind of space of the room. As you kind of progress further, there's this incredible big Nook fireplace, which was one of the features when I saw the house that I just instantly fell in love with. These are called Nooks. They're quite unique to this kind of house. It's a Wealden Hall house, it's called. And many of them have these great big open fireplaces. We added the log burner just for heat, because it's quite a big room. It puts out a lot of heat, which it needs. This is kind of more of the space here when we've got Christmas and we've got friends around. We tend to kind of gather around here, have all the food out and drinks, and kind of it's the more social kind of when we're entertaining. This is more of the space when we've got the fire going. In terms of decorating the room, there was literally nothing in here, no colors. We had to redo all of the beams. They were originally very dark. They were kind of painted black, which was really kind of oppressive, and it kind of felt quite enclosed. So we found evidence that actually these beams were at some point in history lime washed. So lime washing is a kind of way of preserving beams that they used to do back a couple hundred years ago. So we lime wash them, and it kind of lifts, I think, the whole room and kind of makes it a lot lighter, a lot kind of brighter. And then what else did we do? We added a bit of color. So I found that in this room, it was kind of, I knew I wanted to add color, but I didn't want to kind of compete with the beautiful beams and the kind of whole aesthetic of the room. So what I did was I decided to add this beautiful green in all of the woodwork. So around the windows, on the doors, and around the fireplace. And I think it's it's a really lovely green. It's Edward Bulmer Invisible Green. And it's the whole idea of the color is to kind of bring the outside nature into the house. And I find it actually really, really easy to incorporate into textiles. So the curtains are Nina Campbell. We found these at an antique shop. A lot of the furniture we've got is antique. As you can tell, I've got a huge kind of passion for antiques and thrifting and that kind of thing. This coffee table is one of my favorite antiques. And it's quite funny actually, because I bought this coffee table before we owned the house. When I first saw the house, before we even exchanged and bought it, I knew that this coffee table belonged in this room because it's such a great long size. It's basically an old refectory table, it's probably 17th century, that had been cut down, and it's got really beautiful oak carvings on it. We found it at an antique shop in Lewis, and it's great because, you know, when we're entertaining, we can put all the food out on it. I've always got books, all sorts on it, and it's a great games table as well when we're doing Monopoly and everything. So it's a real kind of, I think, quite a good focal point of the room. So I love pattern and textiles, and I am an absolute sucker for a chair. I love an armchair. As you can tell, we've got a lot of chairs, too many chairs actually. I have to kind of stop myself when I see one. And I don't mind kind of mismatching patterns. So a chintz kind of floral chair, it's just my favorite thing. We found both of these ones at antique shops. We're really lucky where we live. This part of England, we're absolutely spoilt for antiques. And I just love the pattern with them. And the kind of greens and pinks is a kind of color combination that I just absolutely love. So we've got the chairs. Hops. Now I get asked so much. So many people say, what are those things dried over the Inglenook? And they're hops. So they're what, you know, you draw to make beers, to make beer. This area of East Sussex is really unique to growing hops. Back in, 150 years ago, a lot of people would come down from London and pick hops, and that was a kind of a thing to do around here. And the back of our property actually used to be a hop garden, which was, you can still see sometimes they come up and you can see the hop vines. So basically these are the flowers, and we can get it at the local farm shop. You can buy them, they dry them, and they just sit up there. And I just think they're really quite special, and they're really unique to kind of the area. So that's my hops. I love knickknacks. I can buy them. I have too many knickknacks. It's an obsession of mine, and I love kind of combining them. I think that in a home, what makes it totally unique to you. So these ones here, I've got a kind of mixture. I've got lots of, I really like the old Staffordshire. Oh, I'll show you the Staffordshire kind of figurines. This one, was this the gin? Oh yeah, this one's quite naughty actually. My husband bought this for me, and it says gin and water, and the man that is having the gin looks a little bit kind of wobbly, and the one that's water looks very healthy and happy. And my husband bought it for me because I like a gin and tonic from time to time. So that one was quite funny. And I've got mockaware, which is beautiful. I love to collect mockaware. This one here I found at a car boot sale, and it's incredible. However, it's in a million pieces and has been glued back together, but it doesn't matter because it looks nice and it's pretty. What else? Yeah, lots of kind of Staffordshire pearlware. It's kind of all in the mix, and then a few kind of modern ones from Pentreath and Hall, Bridie Hall. The crown above the fireplace, I'll attempt to show you. It's quite heavy. There we go. So we got this in London. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I didn't know where it came from. And I actually asked on my account some people saying sort of, what do you think it is? The consensus is we think that it was probably on top of the pole for the coronation because this crown is a replica of the one that Queen Elizabeth wore. So I think it was a kind of coronation type celebration thing for in the town. It weighs a ton. I don't know really what the purpose here in the house is other than to just look cool. So we put it above the fireplace. So there are lots of challenges when you're dealing with a 600-year-old building. It has to be, all of the repairs and all of the work done to it have to be done really sensitively, and they have to be done by people that really understand the fabric of a building like this. Before we could start working on it, we had to get a lot of permission and sign-offs from the council because it's Grade 2 listed. It was incredible. I mean, the people that we had, we were very lucky. We had a team of people working on it that had worked on a lot of National Trust houses, and they really knew what needed to be done, how this building was made. And there was a lot of sort of big decisions before we could even start doing it. It took maybe 18 months before we could even start working on it. So there was a lot of consideration and time put in before the work started. I would say the biggest challenge for us was the fabric of the building is all timber framed essentially. So the oldest part of the house, the main bit of the house, is all made from an oak frame with infill of daub, which is sort of mud essentially, 600 years old. All of that had to come off before we could see what had to be done to it. And unfortunately, some of the oak beams, some of the main front oak beams had rotted, so they had to be replaced. They were, the whole front of the house was essentially opened up, so we didn't have any windows. And I remember there was one Christmas where we had literally tarps over the windows, and we had the little Christmas tree still, and we just sort of, I tried to make it as kind of normal as possible for the kids, but it was chilly, it was chilly. We had no windows for a good sort of 6 months in the house. So I'm going to take you over to the other side of the room. We've got this beautiful antique baby grand piano. I knew I wanted an antique piano because I grew up playing the piano. In Canada, I started when I was 4 and I missed having one. When we were speaking to actually one of the ladies that used to look after the lady before us that lived here, and she told us that there was always a grand piano here, a baby grand piano here. So that was it for me. I just thought, yeah, we do need to get one here. So I do play it. It's terribly out of key at the moment because it's in a window, and it does sound a little bit kind of off, but it looks beautiful, and once it's kind of tuned up, it's quite nice to kind of play some Christmas carols and kind of be jolly in here. So when we finished doing all the kind of structural work in this room, it was completely bare and there was nothing in it. We had all of our furniture in storage, and it kind of took us a few months to sort of think, how are we going to design it? And for me, the way I kind of work with interiors is it's quite organic and it happens quite slowly. I think if I make a plan, a grand plan for a room, it never kind of is exactly the way I want it. So it's kind of a process of addition and buying things and moving things around until it's right. Because with this room, it's quite large. With the two fireplaces, we tend to kind of put all of the seats near the fireplace. So we've got, you know, the two little seats here, the quite cozy antique armchair. Sit here, you get the heat of the fireplace. The kids tend to sit here. These are all antique ones. This is actually a new one, George Smith, and this is Oka. Brick floor is one of the features that I just love about this room because it kind of adds a real sort of warmth to it. But it is quite cold on your feet. So we've done a kind of, you'll see in the rest of the house, there's a real patchwork of antique carpets. I love antique carpets. I don't overthink whether they go or match or any of that, which you might be able to tell. It's a little bit eclectic, the kind of color scheme in the house. But I think I don't know, I think it's quite relaxed, and I think it adds a bit of character, and it's obviously warms up the room a little bit with all the different carpets. This dog bag, we've got Bear, the yellow Labrador, who's ridiculous. She's very bouncy and very excited, and I will bring her out at some point to meet you. But I have one rule: she is not allowed up on the sofas at all because she sheds a lot. And so I found this dog bed. I've been looking for ages for dog beds, and I find that a lot of the time they're not particularly attractive. This one I found at a car boot sale in the middle of a field on a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, and I just thought it was really, really sweet. I love wicker. I think it really kind of adds a little bit of warmth to a room, and it's big enough that it fits here. I've been, this is William Morris, the little dog insert in it. So she feels quite posh when she gets into her fancy dog bed. This painting is, I have to say, my favorite painting in the whole house. We've got, my husband loves artwork, as do I. However, he bought this painting without me knowing, which is always a little bit risky. But when it arrived, I was just blown away by it. It's called The Serbian Dresses, and it's by an English artist, Jean Inglis, her name is, and we think it's around 1945, around there. We found it at an auction. I just absolutely adore it. I love the colors in it. I love their expressions. Everything about it, whenever someone sees it, they're sort of drawn to it. It's just got a really lovely feel to it. And of course, I just love the beautiful dresses that they're wearing. It's just so, so pretty. I think it was really, really important for us to maintain the kind of historical aspect of the house, and to maintain a lot of the kind of original features. Houses like this are rare, and they don't, I think when things are done to them to modernize them, you can't put them back when things are taken away. So we really, really wanted the house to kind of to be as sensitive as we could be with the restoration. And I'm really kind of careful to say it wasn't a renovation, it was a restoration. So we really wanted, instead of changing it, we wanted to put back and as much as we could into the house the way it was originally built. We wanted to kind of maintain the kind of authenticity of the house. I think my personal style for interiors, it really changes according to what house I'm in. With this house, it was quite simple, I think, in lots of ways to kind of decorate, because it kind of just dictated how it should be. It's got kind of a really strong look anyway, with the beams, exposed beams, the Nook fireplaces, exposed bricks. So I didn't really want to compete with that very much. I didn't want the interiors to kind of overpower the kind of the look of and the character of the rooms inside. With the kitchen, we had to completely rebuild the kitchen. There literally was no kitchen. So I really did want to create something that looked like quite timeless, really. It looked like it could have been there in the 50s, or it could have been there, in the 80s, and just quite authentic and natural. So I've tried to kind of make it look as kind of comfortable and authentic as possible, while still putting a bit of our character into it, which I think you can do with the soft furnishings and curtains, things like that. You can put your own kind of mark on it. So next door is the dining room. I'd love to show you. Come and follow me. Okay, welcome to my dining room. This is, again, in the oldest part of the house. So it was built around 1420, very, very old indeed. This is where we have our kind of more formal dinners. We'll have Christmas dinner, Easter, all of that. It's very cozy. The first thing we did was put in this beautiful big log burner that puts out lots of heat into the room. Again, you've got a slightly smaller Nook here, but it's quite the kind of focal point of the room. I've got my Delft plate that we found at an antique shop, and this old antique sword that my husband insisted on putting up. The lights in this room I wanted to keep quite gentle, and I didn't want them to be too harsh. And these scallop shell sconces, I think, really do the trick. They're real scallop shells. They're brass kind of sconces, and they kind of give the illusion of candlelight, which I really love, because it's quite a kind of cozy dark room. We've got the refectory table here that seats 6 to 8 comfortably, but I like to squeeze people in. I think kind of the cozier the better. It gets lovely and warm, and it's just a really lovely place to kind of have a big feast. with the artwork in the in this room. So this is actually a really special painting of ours. It's of Frank Gresley, who is my husband's great-great-grandfather, and it's painted by Harold Gresley, his son. And funnily enough, he found it on eBay by searching them. They were actually painters mostly on pottery, but his son did a lot of portrait paintings, and so we were really lucky we had it refurbished and framed. So he sort of takes pride of place here, looks over us when we're having our feasts, and I think he's just got a really lovely, kind face. Again, as you can see, we love our china. This is old Japanese amari. And then we've got the bowls here as well. We tend to kind of collect things when we go to markets, antiques centers, all of that. It's very hard to say no when you see these beautiful things. We're getting to the point where we might have a little bit too much. The kind of space on all the furniture is starting to get filled up a little bit. But yeah, this is a beautiful kind of 17th century oak side table. It's great for all of the linens, all of the cutlery, that kind of thing. My husband's humidor for his cigars that he brings out at Christmas time. What else have we got? So most of the furniture is oak and antique in this room. I think it just suited it really well because of the oak beams. We didn't lime wash these ones. We were lucky they hadn't been painted. They just had a really lovely oak patina, so we left them as they were, and it does kind of make it a lot more cozy, a lot more kind of, to me, I think it's a real winter room. At Christmas time it's just so special in here. I just put out a few bits here just to show you. I love setting tables. I love kind of going to town, putting things from the garden, foliage, that kind of thing. I really love these cabbageware, which is great. They're by Bordallo, and the thing I love about them actually is that they're not particularly precious. You can put them in the dishwasher, they're easy to use, and they're just great kind of everyday dishes. So this is actually, this massive blue and white jug is I found at a car boot sale for £10, just the best find ever. And I think what it is part of a wash basin, so a jug and wash basin. Before they had toilets next to the bedrooms, they would give you a big bowl and a water jug to wash up in. So unfortunately, I don't think the bowl survived with it, but I've got this beautiful willow pattern jug. Well, I would like to think that dinner parties at our house are fun. I hope people are relaxed. I just want them to feel welcome. I love to cook. That being said, I don't tend to do lots of courses and things that are super fancy. I like to just put things out. People can help themselves, lots of sharing platters, things like that. There's usually lots of music on, lots of wine, and I hope that it's all, it's usually a really good night. One of the features I love about this room is the view. So when you stand here, you can look outside. There's a beautiful big pond. We've got ducks, and you can often see them sort of swimming around on the pond. And it's just a lovely, because the windows are quite low, you can just sort of stand here and gaze out. So I think it's the view from this room I really love. My particular style, in terms, if you compare all of the houses I've lived in, they've all been quite different. But I suppose the one common thread would be that I do love colour, and I like to introduce it in kind of unexpected ways. With this house, it was interesting because there was lots of beams on the walls and things like that. I had to, instead of sort of overpowering it, I added colour on the woodwork and on the windows and with textiles and things like that. I think it has to sort of have a bit of a sense of humour as well, a house. I don't like houses that are too stuffy, that are too kind of too serious, taking themselves a bit seriously. I want people to be relaxed, and I like having a bit of humour to the house, yeah. What do I love most about this home? I think hands down it has to be the kitchen. It's where I spend most of my time. It's where the kids spend most of their time. I am always cooking in the kitchen. It's got a big auger, and I've never had one before, and it took me a little while to learn how to use it, but it is truly the heart of the home. It's always on, it's warm, the pets gravitate towards it, and it just creates a really cozy, comfortable vibe in the kitchen. So I would have to say that my favorite part of the house has to be the kitchen. So the next room over is my favorite room. It's the kitchen. Come and follow me. So welcome to my kitchen. It is my favorite room of the house simply because we spend the most time here. The heart of the kitchen has to be the Aga. I absolutely love it. When we first moved in, there was just the one old oil Aga, and then we moved it over and we added an electric companion. The Aga stays on the whole time. It's lovely and warm. Often there's a cat or a dog snuggled up next to it, and people just, when they come into the kitchen, just always naturally kind of gravitate towards it because it is so warm. And I love it. It's great for doing roasts and kind of slow cooking, and it's just my favorite part of the kitchen. The color of the cabinets is Haymarket by Mylands, London. I get asked all the time, and it took us 3 or 4 tries to kind of get the right yellow. Funnily enough, we started off with them being dark green, the cabinets, and it just didn't feel right. It was a little bit too dark, and it just didn't sit well. And we wanted to change the color, and I love the contrast of yellow and blue together. As you can see, I've got lots of blue and white willow pattern in the kitchen, and I love the kind of combination. So I thought I'm going to try and find a yellow. We went through 2 or 3 colors, and then finally we found this yellow, and I love it because it's really, although it's very bright and very kind of cheery, it's not overpowering. I think it's got a lot of character, and it kind of harks back to kind of a 50s look to it, which I wanted the kitchen to kind of feel like. So when we got the house, the kitchen was 1960s. It was in a really bad state. All of the cabinets were kind of falling apart, and there was unfortunately not much we could salvage from them. So it was completely gutted. And we had to design the kitchen from scratch. So to me, the most important thing was to kind of create a space and create a kitchen that looked like it had always been here, that we hadn't just come in and built a new kitchen. So for that to be achieved, we had to put a lot of kind of research into what the proportions of these cabinets would have been like when this kitchen was built. So this kitchen is sort of 1790-ish, and so Georgian. So we looked at lots of kitchens of that era. What did they look like? What was the sort of the shapes of the cabinets? And we kind of sketched it out, and we had a really lovely kind of 2 fellas built it for us. Things like the knobs and the latches, things like that, we've all sourced antique and secondhand so that they didn't look too new. They looked, I wanted these things to look like they've always been here. And I think it really, because these are antique, it kind of tricks you into thinking that they have. All of the appliances, we do have a fridge, we do have a dishwasher, but very cheekily, we've covered them up with the cupboards so that when they're not in use, it kind of gives the illusion that you're harking back to older times before the appliances. So as you can see, in most of my rooms, this is no exception. I have lots of knickknacks up on shelves. The majority of this is mockaware that has been found at antique shops and car boot sales. A lot of it has been sourced locally, so it has come from old pubs that were around in this area. People used to actually drink their beer out of these mugs. And I just think the colors, the blues and the peaches are just really cheery. I have to have my Wally dogs. I think they're very sweet. They've got their kind of startled expression, and they always look slightly shocked. And yeah, I've got lots of ceramics. That's kind of my favorite thing to kind of add color to a room. These are amazing. So these I found at a reclamation yard. They're bull's heads, and they came off of the side of a butcher's shop that obviously had gone out of business, and we've attached them. We've got 2 of them attached to either side of the big ingle nook. So this table, there's actually a really funny story with this table. When about a week after we moved in, we were starting to decide what we were going to do. We're going to do lots of work to the house. We didn't have a kitchen table, and we'd ordered a wardrobe upstairs in one of the bedrooms from an antique dealer, and they came to deliver it, and I was chatting to the lady, and I made her a cup of tea, and she said, "You haven't got a kitchen table?" And she said, "Would you like a kitchen table?" I said, "Yeah, well, I guess so." And she just brought this out from the back of her van and said, "Here, you can have this kitchen table." So it was very, very generous of her. She was lovely, and we've never kind of wanted to change it. It just works. It's really wobbly. It's not completely flat, but I think it kind of is the perfect size. And the fact that it's round means that everyone can kind of sit next to each other and see each other. And it's just really charming. I think it works really, really well in the space. I found this at a car boot sale, and it's actually a candelabra, so it's not electric. I light the candles when we have friends round. It kind of really creates a kind of cozy atmosphere, and I love candles. I just think there's nothing like candlelight when you're entertaining. It's a must for me, and it was great. The only thing was, it was when we first got it, it was a little bit higher, and I actually ended up burning the top of our beam. So hence us getting a thing. My husband told me off, and we had to add this to it. So it's not so much of a fire hazard anymore. I think since we've moved here over the last 6 years, I have perfected the roast dinner on Sundays. It, to me, is just a given. On Sundays, we always have my family round and sometimes friends, and we will always do a big roast dinner, roast chicken or roast lamb, roast beef, and this Aga is just the perfect thing to cook roast potatoes in. I do a mean Yorkshire pudding as well. But yeah, roast dinner is always on a Sunday, and I think that, to me, is my favorite thing to cook. Like all of the rooms, the things that we've put up on the walls, the kind of bits and bobs all around the house have been a very kind of, it's an eclectic mix. It's things that we found from around this area. This one here is a old sign from a little convenience shop that was in this area that had gone out of business. And it's a little ice lolly sign, and it's all hand painted. It's an original one, not a replica, and it was not expensive, but I just loved the kind of graphics on it, and I loved the color that it had, and I thought just perfect for the kitchen, because the kids like ice lollies. And one more thing I have to show you that again goes back to that idea of I love having a bit of a cheeky sense of humor in the house, and this one is the perfect item to show you that does have a cheeky sense of humor. I have no idea what it is. I know it's a spoon, a massive wooden spoon, and I don't know what it was for. If it was indeed for anything, it might just have been for aesthetic, kind of for houses where people thought they had to have a massive spoon. I don't know. So a common theme, as you're probably starting to see, is I do like bits and bobs, knickknacks, all of that. And because we have so many of them, we've had to add shelves to kind of home all of these things. This antique Delft rack my husband got from an antique shop, and it's just the perfect kind of size to display these old Amore plates and blue and white plates. And I love blue and white. I desperately try to keep it monochrome so it is just blue and white. But then my husband will come home and just plop something on it that doesn't match, which drives me mad. But that's the way it is. Yeah, and I've got all sorts, kind of old little antique eggs, little bird's eggs, things like that. It is very eclectic. A little bit of Victorian naughtiness, lady showing her knee, ooh. Now I'm going to show you the tiniest room in the house. I think it's very sweet and a little bit magical, so I'm going to show you. Come with me. So this is our larder. It is a proper old Victorian larder. It's where I keep all of my kind of jars, preserves, all of the jam. I've just made some marmalade, so I keep all of that in here. We've got some duck eggs that the ducks have laid. We keep Aylesbury ducks, and they lay eggs every day, so we get them. And it's got a beautiful tall ceiling here. I've always got herbs drying, things like that. And we didn't do too much to it. We kind of just kept it the way it was. It's a beautiful space to kind of keep all of your preserves and things like that. So yeah, we kind of wanted it to sort of stay how it was originally built. It is all the overspill. We keep our wines. We've got a wine cellar down below, but it's kind of nice for that kind of thing. And because it's so high, it's a tiny space, but because it's so high, we added lots of antique meat hooks to kind of build upwards. I've got an affinity for wicker. I love a wicker basket. And so, as you can see, my collection of wicker has, it's kind of gotten out of hand, but... So the reason there's no heat in here and the ceilings are really high is because they wanted this room to be very, very cold, because obviously it was at a time where they didn't have refrigerators. So there were meat hooks, and there was actually on the window a metal kind of grill to stop any of the flies coming in. So this was, you know, back in the day, there would have been game hanging from the ceiling, and there would have been, the meat would have been stored in here, because this was essentially the refrigerator. If I want to open the window, you chuck that and you can open it. This actually was in the house. She'd left it. It's actually quite interesting. This bit of furniture was here when we moved in, and there's a funny story actually. The lady that lived here used to keep her ducks in here, and we had the lovely experience of when we moved in, I had to clean out this room. So it was a treat for the senses when we first moved in. When I was 20 and I moved from Canada to London, I really wanted to work in fashion. And I was very lucky. I got a job at Liberty's in London, and I worked there for 6 years, and it was my favorite job. I loved it. I was a manager there, retail manager, so I managed the menswear and then the ladies' wear and the ground floor. So I really got a sense of what I wanted to do there. And it was interesting because it's such an incredible store in London that they also do interiors as well. And I think working there, although I wanted to be mainly fashion, I did get my first taste of interiors. And they just have such beautiful kind of eclectic things for sale there, and it's set the seed, I suppose, for me, for my love of interiors, working there really. And then as you know, as I grew older and we had a house, and then we moved and had another house, my kind of attention did start to shift from fashion into more interiors. And now I with my Instagram account, I kind of talk about and show anything that I'm interested in. So it's not just unique to interiors. I do still do a little bit of fashion, a bit of gardening, a bit of cooking. So I suppose in some way it's a real kind of lifestyle account, my account now. I don't think I would, although I miss Canada, I miss my friends, I miss the scenery there. It's so beautiful. I don't think I would move back now. My mum and dad live here now. Most of my family are here, and I think at heart I was a London girl, but now after living in the English countryside, I think we'll probably stay here. Yeah. So now we can go upstairs. I can show you the bedrooms and the second floor of the house. Follow me. Okay, so the first bedroom is on the west side of the house. The traditional name for this room is actually called the solar. What's really unique is the windows. The whole front of the house, all of the windows had to come out. They were all rotten. And when we had the historical architect have a look at the house, he found evidence of these really beautiful arrowhead windows. And the council allowed us to put them back in. So at some point they would have been like that. I think they're really, really sweet. They've got just a real kind of charm to them. And I love them. They look out onto the countryside. And the pond, which is always a kind of focal point. The other window that's really interesting in this room was originally just leaded, but again we had to redo it, and they found that they had these mullions in it. So when this house was built, it was before they had glass, so there weren't any actual traditional windows. They would have been more like this with shutters on them, wooden shutters. So you can imagine how cold the house would have been when it was first built. I love this painting. I knew it would really, really go well in this room because the actual, you know, the feeling of this room is quite light and quite airy. It's got a high ceiling, and I really wanted a kind of hit of color. And this, it's an English artist, again, sort of 40s, we think. And it's Harold Riley, and it's of his daughter, which I love. And I think she's just got such great character, and she's got really arresting eyes. I just think it works so beautifully in this room. So this actually is a radiator cover that we found. We found 6 of them at a house clearance, and the radiators that we have in some of the rooms aren't particularly good looking. They're just basic utility kind of radiators, and so this is perfect. It kind of covers it. It looks like a kind of oak piece of furniture. They've got metal kind of grates on it to radiate the heat, and I think it kind of just serves the purpose really well. I love textiles. I love kind of quilts, all of this. This is a Durham quilt, cotton. Found it in an antique shop, and I love the kind of punchy color of it. And these cushions I actually had made. I found this fabric at an antique shop, and I absolutely loved it. It's vintage Sanderson, and I wanted big pillows with big ruffly frills on them. So I went to a seamstress locally and just designed them for her to make the ones with the big ruffles. So I love them. I think they're really punchy colors, and they just add a kind of a bit of flounce to the room. This bed frame is actually a modern one. We've had it a few years, and we just wanted something really simple. It's not antique, but super comfy, and it kind of works. It doesn't really compete with the rest of the room, so it's kind of modeled after a Victorian design. So the rugs in this room, carrying on that theme of a bit of a patchwork, we've got all different types. I love the colors, and I like the mix of the colors. The floorboards are incredible, actually. They're really, really wide oak floorboards, and it's because it's the oldest part of the house. They're original, so they're sort of 450, 500 years old, and they've got the old kind of metal nails in them. They're just really quite impressive, the size of the oak floorboards. So this fireplace is actually, we've just finished it a few months ago. My husband made all of the surround. Previously, it was just exposed brick, and there was no grate or anything in it. It's not a working fireplace, so the chimney's working, but it's not connected to this particular fireplace. But we did it, you know, purely for aesthetic reasons. And the grate, the insert we found at a reclamation yard, and I loved the blue, and I decided to pick up on the blue and do this kind of punchy, really lovely blue. It's Cook's Blue by Farrow & Ball. And again, it's a really good, I think it's a good example of how in an old house, you still can be quite brave, I guess, with your color choices, as long as it kind of all kind of ties in together and doesn't compete too much with the kind of historical references. And I really like how the blue picks up the blue in the sky in the painting. I think what gives a home a soul, the homes that really speak to me, the ones that I love the most, are the ones that the owners, the occupants, have really relaxed and listened to their own kind of identity, and they've created a space that's just really unique to them, as opposed to looking and getting reference from other people's taste. I think you can always get inspired by there's lots of, you know, sources, Instagram, magazines, whatever. You can, it's great to get inspiration, but I think there's a real line between crossing over from inspiration and just creating something that is not authentic to you. Some of my, you know, the places, the homes that I've seen can be completely different taste or style to mine, but I find them really comfortable, and I love them because it shows that person's, the owner's kind of character. I think those are my favorite houses, yeah. Growing up, my mum and dad are English. They moved to Canada when they were younger, and because they were living in Canada, and I think particularly my mum really missed England. She filled her house with lots of kind of English china and textiles and print that were quite sort of English countryside. And as I was young, I didn't really notice it. But I think you sort of absorb it, and when you get older, you think back to it and you realize why you have a kind of affection to certain things. So I think thinking back, my mum was a big inspiration with her style, and my grandmother was similar. She was English as well. And I think, now in modern day, when I'm on Instagram, some of the accounts and some of the profiles that I really love are ones that are kind of, they're listening to their own character. They're kind of doing their own thing, and kind of breaking the boundaries a little bit. I like people that kind of don't go with the rules sometimes. And those are the kind of accounts that I really like that speak to me. So next, I'd like to show you one of the bathrooms. They're quite special because they're practically untouched since the 60s. So you're in a bit of a time warp when you see them. Follow me. So this is one of the main bathrooms in the house. It is practically untouched since the 60s. It's got the original sink, toilet, bath, heater, all of that. And there's a kind of reason why it is untouched. We did have ideas to update it, to change it. And every time we went and had an idea, we kind of thought, actually, it's really charming the way it is. And if we take it out, you're never going to see it, it'll be gone. And it's a little bit of a snapshot of what bathrooms were like in the 60s. So instead, what we did was kind of give it a little bit of a facelift. So we removed the really, really grotty carpet. It was disgusting. We removed that. I painted all the floorboards. We gave it some new plaster. The windows obviously are new. They're all remade. We lime washed the beams as well to really kind of clean everything up. And then just added a few kind of features to sort of make it a little bit more homely. The thing I love about this room, it's a lovely big bathroom, but I actually wanted it to feel more like a space that you could just relax in as well. So not two bathroom. I call it the unbathroom. So for example, I've put a little armchair. I've got, a little wardrobe to put your bits and bobs in. And it's kind of, it's a nice place, a carpet down. I put the carpet here, and I think it's quite charming, and it's really kind of quite relaxing. It's a really, really lovely space to have a long bath and just relax. So this, I love. We found this at an antique shop. It's an antique perfumery cabinet, and I just think it is so special. The minute I saw it, I thought, I need this in my life. We haven't got room for it in the bathroom, so I put it in the hall just outside of the bathroom, and it's just the perfect space to put all of your perfume. It's quite unusual to see English ones. Often they're French, but this was an original English one with the original wobbly glass, and wherever I go, I will take it with me because it's just such an unusual one-off piece, and I love it. I really wanted to quickly show you a really special part of the house. This is my son's bedroom, and it's the original hall of the house. So it's got this incredible sweeping high ceiling, vaulted ceiling. Originally, the floor wouldn't have been here. It would have gone all the way down to the lounge, and people would have just had a fireplace on the ground and look all the way up to the top of the roof. The original crown post, which is unique to this type of house, a medieval hall house. And what just boggles my mind is that this huge oak beam would have been lifted with chains and manpower because, of course, they didn't have any machinery when this house was built. So it just is an amazing testament to the strength and the skill of the people that built this house. So I've tried to keep it relatively minimal in my son's room. However, this is a tidy day. Most days there's Lego everywhere. But I've added a few bits that I just love. This trunk is so cool. Look, it's got all of the rosettes. It's from, it's a show box. So from a county show when they used to show the sheep, a local farm. It has all the dates where they competed, and they would have got these rosettes for showing their prize sheep. And the thing I love is that it came from this area, from the local. So I'd like to keep it in the area. I think it's a little bit of history, to this part of England, which I just think is really, really sweet. basically, there's a big mezzanine in this room, and the reason it's there is because back before there was heat and people just had a fireplace, with the hot air rising, it was much warmer to sleep higher up in the building, so people would have slept up there. And we did sort of think for a while it would be really cool to build a little balcony and have my son's bed up there. We never really got around to it, but it's just a kind of quirky feature, again, of this very ancient house. Home means to me, it's got to be family. I think it's, for me, the home is where everyone can come, get together, spend time together. We have the best Christmas here. Everyone comes. There's always stuff cooking in the oven. Everyone's got their glasses full, and it's fun, and there's music playing. And I think a home is nothing without having your family around you.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Mary Catherine Butterworth.
And I'm Joel Butterworth.
And welcome to our home in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Joel Butterworth. I'm a dentist.
And I'm Mary Catherine Butterworth, and I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4.
We are in historic Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is 50 miles south of our capital, DC. The city of Fredericksburg was very influential during the Civil War, and the spot where we currently sit is in Stafford, South Stafford, so a little town called Falmouth, which is just over the Rappahannock River. And our property actually was an artillery stage for the Union Army during the Civil War. So I had always wanted to live on land, and Mary Catherine was a little indifferent about that. So I had showed her a couple places in town, and we had gone and looked. And the actual story is we came and looked at the house, and she looked at me and said, "No way, we're not doing it. It's too much work. It's gonna need X amount of money. There's no way we can financially do it." And we were under contract that night on the house. I had always wanted to raise a family on land. I'm really into gardening, chickens, livestock. So I just envisioned this as a beautiful place to raise our family, and it didn't take long to get Mary Catherine on board with that. And then she was able to add her touch to the house.
Yeah, once I realized the opportunity we had here in the space and what we could do with everything, I jumped on board really quick, and it's been an amazing project to work on.
Welcome to the entry hall. This is the first space you would see when you enter the house. It is a colonial center hall style of a home. So you have this big hallway with doors on both sides. That is the original front of the house, but throughout the time it's been changed to the back door. But what's amazing about it is you can open both doors. We're perched up on a hill, and then you get a beautiful breeze through the hallway. The colonial center hall is symmetrical on both sides, so you have the same amount of square footage upstairs and downstairs on both sides of the hallway. Since then, there's been additions to the house, but when you looked at a colonial center hall photo from the 1800s, it basically just looked like a square, and it was all focused around a center hallway. So to me, this is the most prominent feature of the house. All the molding is original. We have the dental molding up top. We have the chair molding down below, and at one point there was picture molding where you would hang pictures instead of putting nails into the sheetrock. I think the most interesting part about the house is the stairwell, to save space, was actually circular. So it's a circular stairwell that goes up to the second floor, and the reason that they did that was to save space. The other cool part about our entryway is this painting was a wedding present from Mary Catherine to me, and it has kind of bounced around our home. So I like that it's one of the first things that you see when you come into the house. And obviously this massive mirror from Indonesia is another cool feature.
So a couple of my favorite features that we have in the center hall here is this light fixture. I used to have a design store a few years ago, and this actually hung in the store. And when we moved here, I felt that it just fit perfectly in this space because the ceiling heights are amazing in here. And this hallway is so uniquely wide that we were able to accommodate larger design pieces, larger pieces of art. We have this amazing Willie Gould planter that I found at market that I fell in love with, and I feel like it really anchors the space. And a couple large pieces of art that we have on the wall here. This is a painter, I believe his name is Sam Ward, out of Savannah. And these are two of his pieces that I picked up at market as well. So all of the flooring in the home, aside from the kitchen, is original to the home. So as I had mentioned before, the house was built around 1740. So it does have a lot of like grooves in it and scratches, and I just love the way that it's aged over time. And another thing that we did to the home that I feel like feels very time period is all of the doorways. We actually arched them. When we originally bought the house, the doorways were super low. People weren't quite as tall back then, and so we worked with a carpenter who created this sort of custom molding, and we opened up every single doorway in the home just to make it feel a little bit more grand.
When Mary Catherine first mentioned that to our contractor, he almost quit.
But we found a fantastic carpenter. He did an amazing job, and we all felt that it looks very original to the home and not something that was an afterthought. All right, so now we'll take you into our dining room. All right, so welcome to our dining room. Obviously, when we first started renovating the house, we wanted this to be more of a traditional dining room. And we have 4 small children, and so it almost never gets used as a formal dining room, but we have actually sort of converted it into an office and art room. So Joel takes a lot of his work calls in here. I sit in here a lot with the kids and do puzzles, and we color and we paint. And we've really filled this room with like all of my most favorite things. I absolutely love art, and I love ceramics and pottery and little stones and things. And so over the years, all of those things that I've collected, we've just kind of scattered them throughout the room. And it's just a really special room to me. I really love just the feel in here and the way this chandelier is at night. It's very moody, and it's my happy place.
I would say my favorite part of this room is this painting back here. I think with the plant, it just really fits the wall. This is Jamie Chase. He's an artist, I believe, out of New Mexico. And this was the first piece that we bought when Mary Catherine opened her design store. I remember it was literally the first dollar we spent was on this painting, and we had people offer to buy it when it was hanging in the store, and
I couldn't part with it.
Couldn't part with it. The other thing I like is to collect books that have any history of the home. So I have all these books on Fredericksburg, Battle of Fredericksburg, South Stafford, and just they all tell a different history of the house. And one of the coolest things I have is the actual original insurance from the house from 1765, I believe, and how much it was insured for in the property. So it's just cool I love collecting little history of the house. This glass head here was another great find.
Yeah, we found it from an art dealer, and they knew that it came from Canada at some point, and we did a lot of digging to try and figure out who made this, and we ended up realizing on the bottom, which we thought was just like a scribble or a scratch, was actually a signature from the artist, and this was done like in the 50s, I believe, and we ended up like tracing over the actual signature, and it took, I don't know, a couple days, weeks, and we were able to find out the artist. But this is, it's all glass, and it's quite heavy, but she's a great little addition on our table.
And of course, a room in this house would not be complete without a fireplace. We have many of them. They are all wood burning. We have not converted any of them, and they actually can all do a fire. We really only burn in the kitchen, but we could do a fire in pretty much every room in this house. And this art on the mantle is by your very own talented Mary Catherine here. So she also has a little artistic side to her, as you can see based on the design of the house.
So Joel and I both went to college at Charleston. He was 2 years older than me, but we didn't actually start dating until after we both had graduated. He was in dental school, and I was living in Charleston after I had graduated. He was down there for a summer with friends. We ended up on the same kickball team, and the rest is history. We moved to Oregon together for his residency, and then we came back to Fredericksburg, Virginia for his work. He is a dentist, and he took over his mom's practice, and we have been here for about 7 years.
She's being modest. She caught a ball, a diving catch in the outfield, our first game of kickball, and that's what really sold me.
And a little bit about my background. In January of 2020, I signed a lease on a space in town to open a design store. What fantastic timing with the pandemic. But it was wonderful. I had it for almost 2 years, and I was able to travel around to different markets and collect art and interiors and a lot of beautiful things. I also do flower arrangements, and so one of the big things that I offered at my shop was custom arrangements. And living here on this property, I feel very lucky because we have a lot of woods around us, and Joel has planted some amazing gardens, so I'm actually able to do a lot of fresh cut arrangements here. And I now have a lot of the items from the store in the home, which is really special to me. And I do hope once the kiddos get a little bit older to open another store.
So we have 4 kids. Our youngest is 4 weeks old, and he was actually born in one of our cars, which was a great story, and now he has a first car for life. But we have a 5-year-old daughter, 4-year-old son, 2-year-old daughter, and 4-week-old boy. So boy, girl. And we couldn't be happier. It is insane chaos right now. I tell everybody that asks how it is that if they've ever watched Chopped on TV, it's like being in the Chopped kitchen 24/7 from the second your eyes open till the second they close. But I don't think we would trade it for anything. We also have 4 dogs, we have chickens, we have cats, you name it, we got it. And it takes a lot to make everything work, and I don't think I could do it with anybody else.
All right, we're gonna go from the dining room into the bar. Originally, the house, this would have been a butler's pantry that would have been closed off. So when they were entertaining, everything would have been done in here. All the food would have been brought out to the dining room or the library. But this was actually a really tiny little doorway here. And because we arched all of the doorways throughout the house, we wanted it to stay cohesive. So we actually arched all through here and this other arch here just to open it up so that the bar really flowed into the dining room. And we kept kind of the original footprint of it. We just updated the cabinets and added some Brazilian soapstone. And then we had the carpenter who did all of our archways built these great shelves for us, and we have all of our beloved glasses that we sort of have collected in a lot of different places here, and the kids do their homework here and play. And
yeah, I would say this is a desk mainly for the kids. We had envisioned it as a place where we would sit down and work, but with the flow of the house, we can't get any work done there. So that's just where we put the kids to do homework and color. No judgment on the alcohol here, but we do like to have a aperitif almost nightly.
And we entertain a lot, so our families are here with us a lot, and we gather at our house a lot with friends just because we have so much space for all the kiddos to run around. And I would say this is like the main thoroughfare of our house because it goes from like the bedrooms and the entryway through the kitchen, where of course we live because we have 4 children.
My cocktail of choice changes seasonally, I would say. I get really hot on one thing and then the next day I'm on to something else. Currently, I'm really into a Campari soda. Before that, it was a gin martini with a twist. Before that, it was a Negroni. It changes daily. But when I get on one, I beat it hard for a few weeks and then I'm on to the next.
I would say my cocktail of choice, I love an Aperol Spritz pretty much any time of year. My favorite wine is Rioja, so we have a little wine cooler here that we always have stocked. All right, let's go into the kitchen.
Okay, the kitchen is where we spend 99% of our time. We both really like to cook, we bake. We're trying to teach the kids to do the same, and I'd say most of our time is spent right here around this beautiful island that Mary designed. Like she said earlier, this is all soapstone, which is really cool because we can beat it up as much as we want, and having the kids, it does scratch, but it kind of is wearing in a way that like looks like the kitchen is used, which I really appreciate. I remember when we first got the soapstone, everyone was like, be really careful, it's so soft. And somebody like dragged a sheet pan across right here, like the day we moved in, and I was like, no! And it's now I love it. Like the more scratches, the more chips in the stone, like the cooler it is to me, because I want a kitchen like that looks worn. But most of these veggies we grow. We have a bunch of peppers, still getting a lot of peppers. We have tomatoes, our chickens, we have a dozen eggs a day, which is nice.
So another really great thing about the soapstone, although it does scratch, if you keep it oiled pretty regularly with mineral oil, a lot of the surface scratches actually, it like fills them in and it disappears. So it has worn really beautifully, but it is also functional, and this particular soapstone is really unique because traditionally they tend to be like a lighter or darker gray, and this actually is a green Brazilian soapstone with really incredible cream colored veining in it. And when we found, there were like 2 slabs, we found them and we just kind of knew it would fit perfectly with the kitchen.
The range and stove we spent a lot of time looking at. We knew obviously that we wanted gas, so we had natural gas plumbed to the house. But we wanted something that looked classic as well, and I think that these features in this oven, it's an Ilve, so it's an Italian brand, and I think it really is what we wanted. We were kind of on a budget when it came to picking out kitchen appliances, because that was the last thing that we ended up doing, and all the arch doorways took up all of our budget, so we had to go with a little bit more affordable range, and I think that this one is amazing for its price. The other thing I always wanted in a kitchen was a pot filler. The other cool thing that our contractor did was plastered our vent hood, and I think this is very unique because you don't see it that often. Most people just put up the prefab ones right on the wall, and I think this is a very unique feature to the kitchen.
And one thing that I really wanted in the kitchen, I wanted it to feel very open. I didn't want to have any upper cabinets. We do have a really large pantry that we're able to house all of our glasses and plates and everything in. So I wanted the space to feel light. I wanted to be able to feature art. So we did away with any upper cabinets that were here. We added some lighting. And then, like every other room, I have, you know, all of my beloved ceramics and pots and just different things that I've collected from different places I absolutely adore. We have some art in the kitchen, which I think is unique because I don't feel like you always see art in the kitchen. And we do have a wood-burning fireplace. We tend to start fires in October, November, and we're able to have a fire all the way through March, April, even May. We tried to keep the original footprint of this kitchen. This was added onto the home in 1900, so this is the most recent addition to the house. So the kitchen, it was quite dark and heavy. It was wood everywhere, so we took down the upper cabinets. This area here was actually all really dark, heavy wooden cabinets. We made them, this is now our pantry. We keep all of our plates, dishes, some gardening things in there. So these have really, they have provided us a lot of storage so that we don't have to have so much in the kitchen. The original format of the kitchen, it was a big L shape here, and I wanted there to be more of a natural flow when you walk through the side door. So we took that out and added an island, which, you know, especially if you have kids, when you entertain a lot, it just, a lot of people naturally gravitate towards the island. And then there were very heavy cabinets that were built up all along this area, and there was just a tiny doorway to the butler's pantry. So we blew that all out, arched this so that there's a much better flow from the kitchen into the rest of the home.
This is our little breakfast nook where we eat every meal. It is getting quite small for the size of the family that we have, and gonna need to either get a bigger table or add some chairs. But we spent a lot of time here, spent a lot of time on the island, and then we did put a little TV in here. We're not big TV watchers, but I do love to watch golf and sports. So Sunday afternoons, we have the TV on while we're cooking, eating. And this is a really cool mirror that Mary Catherine found. It is African porcupine, actually. So I think that's a little unique piece that we have in here.
So this piece of art, this was an artist that I actually had in my shop. His name is Tommaso Fatovich. He is out of Miami, and I love the way all of the colors in this piece really tie into everything we have going on in the kitchen. And I also love large scale art, so it couldn't be more perfect for this wall. So this piece of art here is an artist, Sidney King, who is originally from Boston, but he moved to Bowling Green, Virginia, pretty early on in his career, and that's actually where Joel grew up. So it's in Caroline County, so it's about 30 minutes from here. And Sidney King did a lot of landscape pieces in the Caroline County area, but he's actually pretty famous for all of his Civil War paintings. He has some really incredible oil paintings of different battles, and we actually picked this up at a local antique store. And again, I just think the colors just go so beautifully with this kitchen.
And I'm an avid duck hunter, so this piece to me specifically speaks. And when the fire's going under here, the orange and the marsh grass and everything, I just like to stand here and stare at it.
And now we are going to head over into the living room.
Welcome to the living room. This room we actually don't spend much time in. Our daughter likes to sit in here and watch TV occasionally, but again, another beautiful fireplace with the mantles all done by hand. The molding in this part of the house, this is all dental molding up top. It was in really bad shape when we bought the house, and our contractor was adamant about putting every little piece back together by hand. You can actually buy this stuff in sheets, and the thing that we love about our contractor is he said, no, we're going to hire a carpenter and we're going to build it back to the way it was. So all of this molding up top, especially on this wall, there was a carpenter in here putting these little tiny pieces in one at a time with a little spacer. And I can't imagine how crazy he was after he did all that, because it just seems like very mundane work. But that's the way that things were done. And you can tell, like, on this mantle too, like all of this is just hand carved, and they just don't do stuff like that anymore. In typical Mary Catherine fashion, we have an enormous lamp as well, because she likes things grand. We have a very large marble table here that I actually had to put a joist underneath in the cellar because the table weighs 700 pounds, and it seemed like the floor was going to cave in when they put the table in here. So this is actually held up from the bottom.
I'll mention that this would have been back in the 1800s, this would have been like the entertaining room, because this is really the only other space in the house. They used the dining room just really for eating, so this is where they would have met. This would have been, I guess, traditionally more like a library. And we get really incredible light through here, and we arch the doorways in here. And I will say my favorite little detail is this original Greek key around the molding. And it really was pretty spectacular to watch the carpenter have to come in here and individually nail in each one of these pieces. And it just makes you really appreciate all of the detail that really went into these homes when they were originally built. So I will say this bench is really fantastic. I got it from a dealer in Canada, and it is actually African springbok. And it's really, the colors in it are fantastic, and our kids actually love to lay on it. And because it's springbok, it's really durable. So anything that spills on it, you can wipe right off. We have really tried to furnish our home with things that are that can wear very well with sticky little fingers running around. And I will say another set of chairs that I love, I found these at the Tobacco Factory in Asheville, North Carolina, which I know was decimated in the hurricane, which is terrible. It was a really fantastic, like vintage antique market. But we found them there a few years ago, and they've traveled with us to a couple different homes, and we've moved them around into different rooms to see, where we like them. But they're really cool, kind of modern, and all this leather is really fantastic. I would say my overall style is really a mix of a lot of different things. I absolutely love antique and vintage pieces, and I think they pair so beautifully with modern pieces and traditional pieces. And I think that what I've tried to do in this home is keep the integrity of the older home in sort of a European style and add in our flair of some avant-garde pieces and some things that are a little bit modern, but trying to keep it really exciting and fresh, but also stay true to this really beautiful historic home.
Now we'll take you upstairs to show you the primary bedroom. Welcome to the bedroom. My favorite part of this room is the exposed beams. These are actually part of the structure of the house, so these are structural. And what's cool about them is this is wood. This is 300, 400-year-old wood. And you can see some of the staining from all the handmade nails. But what's really neat is almost all of the structure of the house and the main part is all mortise and tenon. So nothing is held together by anything except a bunch of joints. If you go in the attic, there's a king truss up there, which is massive. I mean, 3 times the size of this, and all the beams coming off of it are all mortise and tenon. It's just really neat how they handcrafted homes. But there was a hallway right here, a wall, so when we blew the wall down and exposed this, we were like, oh my gosh, we have to keep this in the bedroom. And I think it's cool because it kind of like separates the bedroom a little bit. Like we have a little sitting area right there, and then kind of leads us into the main bedroom. Okay, and we love our plants, obviously. So we have 2 massive monsteras in here, which seem to love the light. There's one in that back corner, and then this one here, another beautiful fireplace as well. The trickiest part about renovating this room was actually trying to figure out how we were gonna make the bathroom large enough to fit a shower and a tub. So we had to steal some space from the bedroom and had to get really creative on how we fit everything into the room, but I think it turned out very nicely.
Okay, we can walk through here into the master bath. One thing that we had to figure out when, putting the layout in here was how we were able to accommodate a shower, a tub, sinks without it feeling too tight. This was a really small space, and I think the contractor did a really great job fitting everything in so it doesn't feel too crammed. One thing that I absolutely love in the bathroom here is this table. So all of this wood actually came out of the wall that we had ripped down to enlarge the bedroom, and our carpenter was able to make this into a vanity. I found a picture online that I adored, and he was able to replicate it for us. So it's very special to know that this was the wood that was original to the home, and I think it turned out beautifully. We have stone sinks that we got, I believe we found them online, but I think they're from India. And I love all the different textures and sort of keeping it a little bit monotone. And all of the tile on the floor and in the shower is Moroccan tile.
My favorite room in the house is the potting shed. I love to start things from seeds and watch them grow over time. And so I like to spend a lot of time in there, especially at night. When the light is right coming off of the siding, it's just the perfect vibe.
I would say my favorite space in our home was our dining room, which we have now converted into sort of an art studio and office. It's a really beautiful room, and I love everything that we've added in there, and I found that we use it a lot more now as an office than we do traditionally as a dining room. And our kids love to sit in there and paint and color, and it feels like a very creative, sort of bohemian, whimsical space.
Welcome to the guest house. We also have a guest star, our youngest, Bond, who was born in a car, as we told you earlier. Please come on in. Welcome to the guest house. This has proved to be a really nice place to put our parents. since our inside, we really don't have a good guest space. So when we first bought the main house, we were kind of just cramming everybody in as we had guests, and we made it a priority that we wanted to tackle this. And this room right here was the structure. You can see these beams that we had going into the island. This was the outside wall. The coolest thing to me about this house is you can actually see the char marks from a fire on the original structure in here, which is cool. We read in one of the books that there was a fire on the property and they actually were able to save all the structure. So this is just evidence that that actually did happen. And I think that's just really neat to see that there's evidence of a fire from hundreds of years ago in the house. The beams in this main space, we did have to lift them up. They were down about right here, and to make the space look bigger, we decided that raising the beams a good 18 inches or so would make the room look a little more grand. And these beams are actually from a church downtown Fredericksburg because the existing beams were in bad shape, so we had to relocate some beams. But our contractor was able to find some beams from an old church, and I think they match very well.
As Joel had mentioned, when we purchased the house, this space particularly was it was difficult to work with. So to make the space feel more open, we decided to blow through the ceiling, open that up. There are tiny little windows up there that allow a lot more light in. And there was a wall right through here. So when we opened that up and we found these beams, we knew that we needed to make them sort of a focal point in the kitchen. And we blew through, there was a doorway here, blew through the doorway and the wall to open this up and then fit in a simple kitchen. We have about 2 people that stay in here at a time. So they're able to move around here easily, make breakfast. But I wanted it to feel really clean and open, but have some character to really match, the character of the property. And I decided to go very last minute with red cabinets. And I think at first Joel was a little taken aback by the red, but I felt that it could, really work well in the space. And then, we put some white marble on top, and we've really enjoyed it. We actually come over here a lot with friends and sit on the screened-in porch and have cocktails, and the kids like to swing on the swing behind the house here. And we wondered if we would really use the guest house, and we've spent a ton of time over here, and our guests really enjoy having a little bit of a private oasis away from the chaos of our home.
This is another beautiful piece that Mary Catherine painted, and I think it just fits here perfectly. It just shows how talented she is. And the one thing that I really wanted in this space was a screened-in porch. So we found a way to add a screened-in porch off the side. This was not here when we bought the property. So this screened-in porch was an addition, and we spend a ton of time out here. It gets a little buggy in the humid, deep months of the summer here, so we like to sit out here, pick crabs, have cocktails, listen to music. It's turned out to be a great space. All right, welcome to the potting shed. This is my favorite place on the property. This is where I start all my seeds for the summer. This is where I overwinter plants. We keep a lot of our citrus in here because it doesn't do well when temperatures drop in the fall. But favorite parts about this are the cedar walls. So all of this I did. This potting shed, which is attached to our chicken coop, was really worn down, dilapidated when we bought the property. There was a brick patio here that was fully overgrown. So this was a labor of love for like 6 months, putting a new roof on it, jacking the structure up. I found a bunch of antique windows to make the front wall, old windows for the back. And the coolest thing is this sink right here. It is a concrete sink, and there is no way that 4 men could even lift this. We had to jimmy rig a tractor pulley situation to get it in here. I built the stand for the sink from wood that came out of the house. So I think this is just a really cool feature. I spent a lot of time in here, mainly in the early spring months, just getting things ready to go with a cocktail, Van Morrison going. It's really my safe space in here. This is the chicken coop, which actually is attached to the potting shed, which I think is pretty cool. One thing I really wanted before we moved to the property, I've always wanted chickens just for their benefit, for the environment for one. We'd never throw away food scraps. Every food scrap goes to the chicken. We get an insane amount of eggs. We probably go through a dozen eggs a day with all the kids and myself and Mary Catherine. So we kind of fluctuate between like 12 to 30 chickens depending on how bad the fox problem is at the time, which is a whole nother story. But they used to free range the entire property, but we have such a bad fox problem, we were losing too many. So we decided to put up this fence. Since then, they've been pretty safe. But the breed we have right now are Isa Browns, and then we have one all white rooster, which is really pretty. But the kids love to go in here, get the eggs every day. It's part of their chore list. Just love hearing chicken sounds in the background when I'm in the potting shed. It's a really just nice way to live.
What does home mean to me? I would say it is a space that is filled with all of my most favorite things and treasures and things I've collected and little pieces of art that our kids have made. And we do have 4 kids, and it's a very kind of wild and chaotic space, and home, I think, just feels like a place that's filled with love and special memories.
I would agree with that. Home to me is a place where there's always a kid screaming and just a place you never want to leave. I think when we get home from work on the weekends, we almost never leave the house. And I think a lot of people don't have that in a home, and I feel really special to have a home where I just honestly never want to leave.
On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Surrey, England, visiting the stunning farmhouse of interior designer Louise Jones. Louise, known for her transformative touch, took on the challenge of breathing new life into a 16th century red brick cottage. From uncovering original brick floors to restoring historic details, Louise has blended antique treasures with modern comfort. Her creative reconfiguration of spaces, like turning the dining room into a spacious kitchen, showcases her skill in preserving the farmhouse's charm while creating a home that's perfect for today. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Louise. Welcome to my home in Surrey. Can I show you around? My name's Louise Jones and my company's Fairfax Jones. I'm an interior designer based in London. We're on the Kent-Surrey border. It's a country cottage, approximately 500 years old. So in my own home, I've followed the architecture and the actual history of the property. So I've been very sympathetic to both those traits. Because of the age of this property, I decided to use antique furniture, antique textiles, antique materials such as tiles and metalwork, and go with the character of the property. Welcome to my kitchen. This is an old farmhouse type kitchen. Originally, when we bought the property, the kitchen was through this door here, and this room was actually a dining room. It had a cream carpet and was very sort of traditional English dining room. But we realised that we needed a bigger space. We also wanted to be open onto the garden because we've got a lovely view here through to the garden and lovely far-reaching views of the farmland. So we didn't want to be stuck back at that side of the house. We wanted to sort of see this and be able to walk in and out and dine outside or pop in and out as much as we liked. So we moved the kitchen. And in deciding how we wanted the kitchen, I thought in historic properties, in historic English properties, typically an old kitchen is a freestanding kitchen. You're not going to have a continuous run of units. It just didn't exist in those days. I already had a couple of old pieces, which luckily fitted. And in this instance, I had this old dresser base, which I decided to convert into the sink unit. So we put a marble top on it. We dropped this old Butler sink into it and a typical sort of English 3-hole basin mixer. And then we also got a dishwasher integrated into that, which is quite handy. A typical sort of farmhouse scrubbed table. It also had to be super practical in this room. We've got 3 dogs, we've got horses, and in the winter it's a nightmare because there's mud everywhere. So fortunately, when we bought the house and we lifted up this cream carpet, we discovered the original brick floors. So these floors are hundreds of years old and they go right away across through the ground floor. They needed a lot of scrubbing. They were filthy. So we were on our hands and knees for days, really, just scrubbing them, sort of Cinderella style, I suppose. But anyway, they've worked a treat and we're really pleased with those. But we carried on sort of collecting and finding different pieces that could be quite practical. Plate storage. I love old china, and I thought this is a lovely opportunity to display some really old pieces of porcelain. So some of these things, I mean, that's the sort of old-fashioned teacup, which is about 500 years old, but that's what they used to drink their tea out of. It wouldn't work for me. I'd probably have about 8 huge mugs of tea a day, but never mind. And there's just a nice, interesting collection. And also this splashback, these are really old Portuguese tiles. So these are about 400 years old. It's a super company sources lots of really old tiles. But this kind of design actually became the basis for a lot of rug designs in England hundreds of years ago. We put the old range in, which gets a lot of use. And then what was here when we first arrived, all these beams are original. So they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. And by the looks of things, they've been used in other properties in the past. So either they've come from a house that was demolished over 500 years ago, or they've come from old ships, because quite often old beams were reclaimed from ships and brought into properties and houses for construction. So when we arrived, this fireplace was already here, this big Nook fireplace. I just painted out the back in a slightly stronger colour because I thought this kind of khaki green works nicely with the copper pots. I thought that was quite a nice combination. And every day, as soon as, well, probably in about a month's time, so as soon as it goes below about 15, I start lighting fires, much to my boyfriend's dismay because he has to chop all the wood. And yeah, we get through the wood I get through the wood in no time. And the other thing we did just to get the feeling of an old house back, because when we came here, it didn't feel like an old house. You know, cream carpets, cream walls throughout. It was a bit bland. I don't like bland. I like houses with a lot of character, and I like houses that look like they've evolved over time rather than being designed on a mood board, you know, dropping fabrics on. We put some old sort of cast iron radiators in. The other thing we did, I like sort of shaped splashbacks like this. I think they look quite characterful. Next, I'd love to show you the pantry, so follow me. So welcome to the pantry. So this was the old kitchen, so much sort of more enclosed space than next door, which is another reason why we wanted to be out there. We had a lot more space to sort of spread out. And here really, it's a practical pantry, it's full of food. Again, I like old Delft plates, so these are sort of, I think about 1600s. And I do sort of collect them, but I find those really attractive. And then I bought this for my boyfriend for one of his birthdays. He likes his red wine. And then this I got in auction. I do buy quite a bit in auction because you get good value for money, I found. And it literally fit into this space by a matter of inches. So quite fortunate with that. This is like an old I think it's a cabinet that they used to keep in coach houses, where when horse and carriages used to go into these coach houses, and then they would keep all their kit, the riders would keep all their kit in one of these cabinets. But I thought it's quite nice because it's got sort of practical storage, but also you can sort of display something, so it's best of both worlds really. And then that's another sort of boyfriend present, so the big wine containers. Over here, I've had these old Smeg fridges in so many properties. I don't know why, but I always go back to them. I find them quite attractive. And then at the windows, I just did a really simple ticking stripe from Chelsea Textiles. It's something and nothing really, that, but it just works. And then this is quite a pretty little piece here. So this, again, it's quite practical. It's absolutely full of food and cereals and things. But this is an alpine cabinet. So all those Swiss and Austrian chalets in the old days, they would tend to have these kind of things. And again, I saw this in auction, and it's got nothing to do with England at all, but I just quite liked it. I found it really decorative, and I love the colours, and the scale's quite sweet too. This light fixture, I like arts and crafts. I think I've got a soft spot for the arts and crafts period. And this is kind of pewter and this lovely sort of amber pressed glass with this element light bulb. They work really well in these kind of period pieces. I got this in auction, but it's such a lovely shape and style. It's a sort of nice characterful piece in this area. Welcome to the sitting room. And this is Dodo Duddings. He's our rescue lurcher. He's getting on a bit now, but he's a good boy. Hopefully he'll behave himself. I'm pretty sure he will. So this, I would say, is pretty traditional English country cottage. You would know it's the sort of more formal room in a house in England, because, believe it or not, they've tried to do sort of more decorative mouldings. That little bit of sort of shape that they've put onto that beam is trying to say that this is the most formal room in the house. Yeah, so we've only been here around about 3 years, but when I started to think about this room, I wanted it to feel as though it's sort of been here for almost forever, that the room's sort of evolved and developed over time, over the years. So some of the pieces are new, even though they're probably like 100 or 200 years old, but other things I brought with me from other places and houses. The sofas are the sort of typical Howard style that you'd see in an English drawing room. This one's in a sort of Claremont blue wool, and this sofa's over here is in a very soft pink linen. So with the colours, I did want to bring some pinks into here. I think pink's a sort of nice sort of English country cottage colour, all the flowers, the roses, peonies, whatever. So I did want to bring those floral colours into the scheme. So there's sort of the very soft blues, the sort of delphinium blue. Well, this is a sort of antique pink velvet. I like that sort of very soft colour palette for here. And we've sort of done a chalky pink wash on the walls. I think that paint was from Papers and Paints, which is a firm I use a lot. They're in Chelsea. This chair over here is from Kinkham Sofas, but again, it's sort of a classic English wing armchair, and it's in a Colfax and Fowler check, the Eton check, which I think's been around forever. And it's got a loose cover on it, which I thought was quite nice, quite relaxed. The rug as well is sort of old Isnick pattern in these soft pinks and taupe colours. Kind of reflects the garden as well, I think. This whole fire surround is original. The local blacksmith, we've got a blacksmith in the village, he made the hood for the fire, which is rather nice. And then over here, I've got this sort of pine chest with a lovely Amari lamp on it. This little chair is done in a Fortuny fabric. Fortuny is a Venetian company. They've been going for hundreds of years, and they will not allow anybody in their factory, they won't let anybody see how they make their fabrics ever. And it's a bit of a luxury, that fabric, I suppose. And then this is another sort of arts and crafts piece, which I quite like, this sort of little brass mirror. I've had this a long time. It's an oyster walnut cabinet on a stand. And then sort of English paintings. We're mad into our horses. We've got 2 down the road, and there's a lot of kind of horse art and horses in photo frames here. You can't get away from horses and dogs, I'm afraid. So if you don't like horses and dogs, you probably wouldn't like it here very much. The other people who do really good paintings are Sybil Colfax and John Fowler is a separate entity to Colfax and Fowler. They've got a beautiful shop on Pimlico Road, and they have just gorgeous pieces. So they do paintings, ceramics, old chairs and tables. It's just beautifully put together, and they have lovely pictures. I also got this piece from them. It's sort of a Chinese piece, but I think this Chinese black and gold look, the chinoiserie look, goes really well in an English country interior. The other thing that's from Colfax actually is this little stool, which is really handy. You can just pick them up and put them wherever you want, and it's just a handy little side table. But they do these fun little decorative pieces that sort of slot in anywhere. This again is another Fortuny, this Italian fabric, which I love the colour of that. It's kind of eau de Nil colour. And then again, you're seeing it in the summer. In the winter, this house has to do different things. It has to stay warm. So we have these curtains backing onto doors and openings to keep out the drafts. And this is a nice heavy velvet that's from Watts of Westminster. Again, that's an old British company that's been going hundreds of years. And then behind this door, I've just done this old sort of tweedy check, but again, it's got such heavy interlining because in the winter, the winds just whip across those fields and they're cold. So I didn't go straight into interior design. After university, I became an accountant. I worked for one of the big 5 at the time, accountancy firms. Didn't enjoy it one bit. Decided after day 1 I hated it. But I went to then train at the Inchbald School of Design, which is one of the big ones in London, and did a year's diploma. Really enjoyed that, and then joined one of the big interior design companies in London, and I stayed with them for quite a few years before sort of setting up on my own. And I've had my company now for just about 22 years. So I'll take you to the dining room. Follow me. So welcome to the dining room. This was more of a challenge, I think, this room. It's a bit lower and it's quite narrow. I had to sort of put my thinking hat on a bit. But typically with rooms that are a bit more challenging in terms of the dimension, it's better not to sort of chicken out. It's better to go a bit punchier with your colours, your finishes, and the whole kind of scheme that you're trying to do, just to go in a bit stronger. So that's what I did. So the colours on the walls are more intense. The curtain fabrics are heavier. There's a much heavier weave involved. And the overall feel is a bit stronger and more robust, I would say. For instance, the dining table. So this had to be quite a skinny refectory style table. It's about 400 years old. I got it in auction and I think I paid about £200 for it. So I was pretty chuffed with that. And it's such a great piece. It's not far from here. It didn't come from far from here. It weighs an absolute ton, as do most things in this house. So every time the guys had to offload things and bring things in, they weren't terribly happy, to put it mildly. But anyway, it's a great table. And the chairs, again, I've just done in this kind of lovely sort of natural tweed in a sort of nice green and red plaid check pattern. In dining rooms and kitchens, in terms of the art, I like to do still lifes. I think it sort of works. So we've got this sort of floral scene here. Paintings, I got this one from Julia Boston. She's in Fulham in London, and she has gorgeous paintings like this and on much bigger scale as well. But yeah, this is quite a small scale for her, but quite a nice piece. And then again, for dining room, and particularly if it's green and I've got these sort of tapestry curtains, I thought let's get some authentic, sort of genuine tapestry in here. So that's a Flemish tapestry that's about 1605 in quite a spectacular frame, I think. I've set the table for dinner this evening, but I use all sorts of things really. I love Richard Ginori for plates. They're quite rich and quite decorative. And there's a slight mismatch going on, but yeah, that's his. And then I got these, I think I got these even from eBay, but they're really heavy lead crystal gilt glasses. And I love all this at Christmas time. This room's great at Christmas because I really set the table and go to town with it, and we have a little tree in the corner. These are quite interesting. Again, like I said before, I love the chinoiserie decoration in English country interiors. I think it works great. This black, gold and green is sort of goes really well. But these were in China, were how they transported their lunch around. But they make, I don't use them for that, but they just make nice decorative pieces. And then carrying on with the heavier, thicker textures, I've got this needlepoint fabric on this little chair. This is Watts of Westminster as well. This pattern's been going around forever. And then again, these lovely big sort of oversized Imari pots, I think work quite nicely in here. I have looked at the history of this house and I've started to do some digging, but I need to dig a bit deeper, or maybe ask somebody who's a bit more used to investigating period properties like this. All I know was that it was 3 separate little cottages. So there would have been different families in each cottage, and then at some point it was knocked into one. What we love about it is it's really remote. We don't have neighbours. We've got these beautiful 360-degree views, but because it is off the beaten path, not much has been written about it or photographed, or it doesn't come up in many sort of historical documents like other houses, which might be on a road or a lane. People would stop and paint it or something, but not with this one. So I need to do a bit more work on it. So we've just got this kind of little nook, this little niche. And I had this old chest for a long, long time. It used to be at the bottom of one of the beds in a different place. But here I just thought it sort of sets itself up quite well for a bar, quite useful for the dining table. And because it's quite a dark little niche, I thought a nice old mirror would work quite nicely there. And again, I'm using my chinoiserie. I obviously like it. So now I'll take you upstairs to show you the rest of the home. So welcome to the bathroom. This is our bathroom. When we bought the house, it was actually 3 rooms, and it's the only room that we completely reworked, I suppose. The bathroom was this small space here. The entire bathroom was actually fitted into that, believe it or not. And then the door was in a different position. They had a sort of a little bedroom here, and then there was a ceiling with this sort of ladder going up, and I don't know what they expected you to do up there, but anyway. So we knocked it all out. We've got these lovely rafters going right up. Maybe it's about 15, 16 feet going up there. And just to emphasise that height, I found these old, they're actually Italian, these banners. I don't know where they would have come from. As flowers in vases, but I thought they were quite pretty up there. And then I had this mirror that used to be over a fireplace, but we just bolted it onto those beams. And then again, I had this old dresser that used to be in a dining room, but when it comes to bathrooms, I like them to be really original, full of character. Again, I don't like the whole fitted out, everything's like a suite. And I wanted it to feel like a room of the house. So I took this piece of furniture and we had it converted into a vanity. I think the taps are from Water Monopoly, and got this nice old green marble there. And I always find shelves on the top like this quite handy. And then we've got this old trunk down in the corner. This lady, I find her quite sweet, really, how she's looking down on you in the bath. And yeah, we've just got the best view ever, I think, from the bath. It's just right over the garden and over the fields beyond. And I put the pattern on the walls because once I thought I do want it to feel cozy, and I love this sort of floral pattern. It's interesting, it's decorative. We did have to put this step in because the bath is cast iron, it's so heavy, and we were just concerned that the house wouldn't take it. So at the last minute we had to sort of get a steel beam underneath here, and then they clad it in timber. The wallpaper's from G&J Baker. Again, it's a chinoiserie design, but the colours aren't sort of typical chinoiserie, I would say. It's sort of this egg yolk colour and delft blue, so it's quite unusual, but it just gives a really cosy feel in summer and in winter, which is rather nice. And the other thing I think is quite nice is having sort of more decorative light fittings rather than your typical bathroom light fittings. These are old pewter wall lights from a company called Hilary Batstone, based in London, in Pimlico. And then this old light fitting, I got that in auction actually, but it's quite nice for this little space. And then we did sort of go a bit more modern with the shower. Well, I say more modern, but you know, it's got the glass screen, but a nice big open shower. We've got super views down the fields beyond over there, and a really good rain dome. So the bathtub is from Aston Matthews. They're a sort of North London sanitary ware supplier. I don't really like really big baths where you feel you can't sort of hold yourself in. So it's quite a neat size. And then this little table is like a decoupage table, just a sweet thing, but it's pretty handy. And that's from Robert Kime. And the little tiered table is from Sybil Colfax and John Fowler. Again, really useful. So let's head to the primary bedroom. So welcome to the primary bedroom. This room was really special from the first moment we viewed the house, and the reason being was the ceiling, because yes, the house is over 500 years old, and this ceiling is from that time. So it's a Tudor hand-painted ceiling, and it's got sort of carnations, dog roses, daisies, and then these sort of running motifs. And then on the ceiling, there's sort of abstract cloud designs. So it's pretty special. And a lady came and wrote about it and said there's only, I think, a handful of them in the country. So it's pretty unique. And we were amazed when we first saw it. We weren't expecting to see this at all. And they've also managed to do, you can just about still see it, but on these beams and rafters on the side, there are some hand-drawn sort of decoration. So at one point, it was all whitewashed over, and it was discovered again in the 1990s. They came to do some repairs or to redecoration, and somebody said, hang on a minute, you've got something behind here. And they discovered this, and so they paid this restorer to come and do a whole number on it and brought it back as much as they could. Yeah, so that was sort of the starting point for what we did in the room. And again, I wanted to have this historical feel. Like most of the other rooms in the house when we moved in, it was all whitewashed. It had the white carpets throughout, everything. And again, when we ripped up the carpets, we discovered the original Tudor floorboards. So they're they're so wide, the original nail holes, this beautiful old oak, 500 or so, we don't really know, I suppose, but years old. They're absolutely all over the place. I mean, you're walking up and down, uphill, downhill, and to such an extent, actually, that this piece of furniture, the floors are sloping like this. So when we put this in, it was about to topple over. So the guy said, well, let's just chop off the back legs to straighten it out. But that's what you have to do. You can't sort of say, well, let's flatten the floor. That's the house. You just have to work with it. So quite often you'll put a glass here and then it just slides on, but you get used to it. This was my parents' piece actually, and it needs a bit of restoration, but that was one of my mother's favourite pieces that's ended up here. That's one of her chairs. The Fortuny fabric again. I quite like this sort of casual, ruffle-headed sort of flop over. I don't think there's a name for that design, but it's quite pretty. Again, a ticking stripe on a chair. It's really casual, but I think ticking stripes can go anywhere really. And then I thought, let's do a bit of a number with the bed because we've got all this height rather than just a regular headboard. And I've never really had a bed like this before with the sort of big pelmet. But I bought this pelmet in auction probably about 18 years ago and I'd never used it. And it was always in the garage, it wrapped in bubble wrap, just going from house to house with me. Anyway, so when I came here, I thought, oh, hang on, we can use this now. So finally it came out of the bubble wrap and it got hung up here. I found this came up in auction at Druitt's, which is in Oxfordshire. And it's the original hand embroidered crewel work from the 1600s. So this was a bit of an expensive purchase, but I thought it's worth it because it really feels like part of this house, I suppose. It was in pieces, so my curtain maker, Tilly, had a bit of a nightmare with it, trying to get it to work. But I love it, I think it's great. And we just lined it out in a really inexpensive mossy green linen. I like these little reading lights. They keep the bedside table clutter-free, so you can just pile up all your rubbish, I suppose, but they work. This piece, like I said, we took about that much off the back legs to get it to lie straight. When it came, it was all timber, but it was a dark corner, this, in fact, and I said, let's put mirror in it, just to give it a bit more sparkle, a bit more life, but also when I'm in bed, I get more of a reflection, so that's quite nice. And then, again, this is quite nice. Again, just having a bit of reflection. It just adds to the, I don't know, the depth and breadth of the room. This is another piece that weighed an absolute ton and they struggled to get it upstairs. When we first moved in, we were sort of camping on the floor over there. It was freezing. And we thought, let's light the fire, which is a really bad idea because we almost died from smoke inhalation, to be perfectly honest. So we had to have all the chimneys relined and tested and all the rest of it. So this is now just for ornamentation. But yeah, I don't think that's ever going to leave. And then I like these kind of chest on stand pieces. I think they're slightly more unusual. So that's quite a nice piece for that spot, I thought. And this is the original old back of the house. So they added an extra bit on at some point, but they kept these old timber frames and I just use it as a bookcase now. And then I inherited this again from my parents. It's a Gillows piece. Gillows were in Lancaster in England, and which is where I'm from, my parents were from. So I keep a hold of it. So even though it's quite sort of zhuzhy, sort of quite Frenchy piece and all gilt, I still keep a hold of it for sentimental purposes. And the carpet is the reds and blues really of this, the mural that you see up there. I thought I'd use those colours in the carpet. The portraits, they're not my aunts, uncles, ancestors, they're really not. But I just thought it'd be quite good fun to do this kind of thing in here. I'm trying to find portraits of people that aren't really ugly. No, sorry, I shouldn't say. But when you go through auction catalogues, you see some pretty scary individuals in these sort of pictures. And I thought she's quite sweet. And again, I love the reds and the blues. She's French, but she still works here. This is the oldest one, of course. Again, he doesn't scare me to death when I'm lying in bed. But he's Tudor. And then it looks a little bit like my boyfriend, so maybe he's like a long lost ancestor, I don't know. My boyfriend doesn't have a powdery wig like that. But again, the reds and the blues, and he's not too terrifying. So now I'll take you to another bathroom downstairs. Welcome to the downstairs bathroom. There's this small corridor space in between. This is the old back of the house here. It's got the stone clad on the walls and it's got that little window that we saw upstairs that's in the bedroom. And then this is sort of an extension that they put on before my time. But the corridor was sort of pretty bland. There's nothing happening here when we moved in. It was just white with a cream carpet. So I quite like this sort of trellis design, which we wallpapered onto the walls. And again, some more of my Delft plates. This is a William de Morgan vase. I love this. This is one of my favourite pieces. Again, it's an arts and crafts ceramic piece, bit oversized, but again, I like it for that. And then into the bathroom, again, I've done in arts and crafts style. This is a Voisey, was the designer in those days, and he designed not many wallpapers, probably about 10 wallpapers, and this is one of them. It's very country, sort of swans and deer and the doves. More Delft plates. The blue and white Delft will go anywhere. And some little etchings on the wall. And this sort of star design on the floor, so it's pretty decorative for a small space, but I like that kind of thing. The old brick tiles again, which are great. These pastels, my mother did those actually, so put her art next to the loo. So let's have a look at the garden. Garden and the setting were probably the prime reason we purchased the property. But I say the garden, the actual land, there wasn't a garden when we arrived. So we put in everything you see really. So I thought it would be quite nice to have this sort of symmetrical layout centred on the front door. So as we come in and out, we have this really pleasing, lovely view straight down to this circular herbaceous border. And the urn on the pedestal at the end, I bought in an auction. And there's loads of symmetry here. There isn't much in the house at all, but there is in the garden. You know, the nice pots and these stone balls. And then left and right, we put in these circular flower beds. We laid the terrace and I put in lots. I had lots of pots originally. I love gardening. If I didn't do what I did, I would be a gardener. English country sort of cottage garden flowers, I would say. And we also put in the hedge because there is actually a public footpath on the other side of the hedge. So we put this in. So that's in its early stages, I suppose. We've put that in for privacy, but it has to be said there's not many people walking up and down. It's pretty peaceful. But lovely, lovely views, winter and summer, and sunsets and gorgeous skies, day and night. It's really pleasant. So this for us is our summer sitting room. It's a summer sitting room and a summer dining room. Yeah, we eat here, we barbecue here, and we have friends over and we'll just sit there well into the evening. It's a really pleasant place to sit, really, very, very peaceful. So when we did first come to see the house, all we saw was lawn and the house. It was the winter, so there was nothing floral, there was no green leaves. It was pretty bleak. But I loved this space and I could see a lot of potential. It's very, very peaceful. The house itself had, all the windows were dark brown. They were painted really dark brown. So it was so drab and it looked really like quite a sad house really. But obviously it's just the change of paint colour makes all the difference. And a lot of flowers and plants. So now it's this soft, pretty house, which is great. Hello, hello. Come here. Come on, Albert. He's our new addition. He's brand new. He's enjoying life now. He's been in kennels all his life as a racer. And finally, he's got a garden to play in. And he's molting. So at the back of the house, we've kept things more natural and a bit wilder. We have planted a lot of wildflowers, which has been a bit of a success, and maybe not. But there's an orchard here, and we're trying to develop that and enlarge it a bit. And the other thing we did out here, like I said, we've got these lovely views all the way round. We just removed some of the smaller trees here just to get more of a view. And it's a lovely place to sit. When it gets very really hot. It's just stays quite cool here. We get this lovely breeze. And just to sit and look over the fields, it's rather nice. And then, yes, we put this urn in over here, and that's actually the pet cemetery. But yeah, it's just sort of the end focus of the garden. So let's have a little look inside the shepherd's hut. This is overflow accommodation. Every so often we do need to sort of put somebody up in here. Hopefully it's during one of the summer months, but it's quite handy and it looks quite pretty in the garden. And I gave it this sort of racing theme. So we've got a horse racing blanket on the bed, this sort of leather work on the cushion, and then all the famous English and Irish race horses. So there's Red Rum, Arkle, Desert Orchid, all the big ones, Frankel. Yeah, I just got them sort of printed off and framed and gave it that sort of theme. But this is an old original shepherd's hut. It's probably about 1920s. The poor person hasn't just got a candle and a torch. They have got electricity. They've got, and we can put a heater in here. So yes, every mod con.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.